What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daly. I'm your law enforcement translator. You guys know I'm here to bring you insight from the perspective of a law enforcement officer. You guys know we have a lot of difficult conversations over here on my channel. We talk about a little bit of everything. But today, I'm going to have a special guest, a good friend of mine, you guys, from the police academy, all the way from the beginning, all the way from the starting point. I think it's so important that, we have these conversations, that I bring up people who can also either echo some things that I've said or give a different perspective, a different opinion. You guys are used to hearing from me, but I want you to hear from other people who have done the same job, who've worked the same communities, even different communities, whether in-state, out-of-state. There's a different perspective everybody else brings to the table. And so this is a good friend of mine. I'm going to bring him up shortly, you guys. But first, I want to thank everybody who's here tonight, who's ready to have this conversation. As you see the title, Can the Police Keep It Real? Why do I say that? Because, you guys, lately I've been traveling all throughout these YouTube communities, different platforms. And unfortunately, I've been garnering a lot of support. A lot of people have been coming over to the channel. So shout out to all the new followers, the new subscribers. I really appreciate it. You guys, this is not an easy discussion. It wasn't easy for me to start this channel. I know the issues. I know where the problems are. And I'm gonna be honest, some of the biggest conflict that I have in this space is coming from my own people, right? I understand the history of law enforcement. I understand the bad outcomes that some people have, but we never hear about the good ones. We don't uplift those good officers that are doing amazing jobs, the officers with integrity, the ones who have pride in what they're doing, the black officers, men and women who put the uniform on and they serve with distinction. We don't talk about them. We never hear about them. The media doesn't show us those people, you guys. They are out there. And I'm telling you, there's more than them than you can imagine, right? We get so accustomed to hearing all the negative content, unfortunately, and it skews our views. You guys, at the end of the day, we need officers. We just need good ones. At the end of the day, we need black officers to represent our communities. We just need good ones, right? And there are a lot of good ones. And so we are going to break that myth. We're going to talk about those things on this episode. My guest will be here, and he's a sharp brother, you guys. He's someone that I look up to, I admire as well, and he's going to give you some insight. So listen, let me dive into the chat. Thank you to my moderators. Shout out to my amazing moderators. You guys are always here on time, even when I don't know what I'm doing. So where's everybody at? Let me go through these comments real quick before I bring them up. Let's see, where are we at? Let me start from the top. How you guys feeling tonight? You guys, listen, I'm not gonna keep you too long. You know how I do. I'm not gonna keep you too long, I promise. We're looking at maybe a smooth 2 hours. Right? Shout out to the big homie, Black Man Unfiltered. Listen, I have a little special video coming up, you guys. You guys know I did a review with Black Man Unfiltered not too long ago. It was a great discussion. You guys, if you have not followed him yet, please go and check him out. If the moderators would drop the link to his channel as well. I definitely got to get him over here to have a discussion. Matter of fact, tomorrow, you guys, we're having a talk about Black fathers and the importance of Black fathers. So please, you want to stay tuned to that if you have not seen that in the community tab. What else? Who we are? We have some followers over from Kwame Brown's channel that signed up recently. So thank you guys who are watching from Kwame Brown's channel. I really appreciate that. Shout out to Kwame Brown as well for allowing me the time to get on his platform and speak on some interesting topics as well. Storm Monroe, we have some followers from there. That brother is amazing. Great content, great conversation as well. If you guys haven't seen that, I will be dropping that video soon as well. So hello, everyone. Hello. Let's get comfortable. Yes, the Braves Club. I know you're going to have a good question for us as well, brother. So I'm looking forward to you standing by with your questions for us. We're going to have a good conversation. You guys, listen, we're very transparent. We're very honest. We don't hide anything. The reason for that is we want our community to be better. We want to have better relationshiip with law enforcement, the officers who are serving our communities. Listen, we know what the problems are. We're here to talk about solutions as well. So listen, all I ask is you guys be respectful. This is my guest. I don't mind you guys coming from my throat, but please, it's a lot. It takes a lot for officers to come outside and have these discussions. This is not a normal thing. And so we want to encourage this behavior. We want officers from all over the world, all over the country to come and have these conversations, you guys, because this is what you want. You want transparency. You want to be able to talk to someone directly. There's a reason why a lot of officers don't come up and have these conversations, but this YouTube thing is new, and we want to create a safe space, a comfortable space for people to give their truth and be transparent, you guys. And so I just ask that you just be respectful, and we're gonna roll with it like that. Tasha, yeah, shout out to Tosh. The Dark Knight is in the building. Absolutely. Yes, Gail, what's going on? What's going on? You guys get your questions ready. We're gonna go ahead and pop this thing off. And shout out to Millennial Mark TV. He's also a former cop too, so he can speak to these things as well. So we will talk about the blue wall of silence. Listen, if you guys haven't checked out my new banner in the back, shout out to my special subscriber. I'm gonna give a special shout out to her if she comes through. She sent me this for my birthday, and I really, really appreciate it. So that's the real Nathan Daly symbol in the back glowing. So I really appreciate that. You know, you guys, we're gonna hook this little studio up. Shout out to Dre. You guys know Dre. He come through and drop gems all the time on the channel. Dre dropping gems Jenkins, is what I like to call him. He's gonna come up too. As you know, we're all a part of the same academy class, and we're all taught the same. We came out here and we did our thing. So where else are we? Scroll down. Oh, we good to go. Shout out to Trash Can Wave. So listen, I'm gonna bring my guest up, you guys. Let's get prepared for this. Amazing brother, very sharp, a lot of wisdom. You guys, this is where I go to get my iron sharpened, right? When I need advice, I talk to him. You know, he's quick to give me some good information, and you know, I bounce ideas off of him as well, along with Dre. As you guys know, Dre is also a person I sharpen iron with. And so there's a lot more. And I'm going to bring these brothers up over time so you guys can see, and some sisters, you know. And you listen, I have some white officer friends as well. I'm going to bring them up too. They're just as sharp, you guys. And they have served our community with distinction. I've worked right alongside of them. And so, you know, we are here to break these myths that all white officers are bad, right? Or all white officers can't serve our communities with love and be respected. You know, that's not true, right? It's not true. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Yo, see, you ready? All right, here we go. Oh man, without further ado, what's going on, brother?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey man, I'm doing good. So the audience is here. You guys, listen, this is a good friend of mine. Like I said, you know, we've known each other since like 2007. We were in the academy together. You know, and great guy. He's cool.
That, man.
Cool. Yeah, he's cool. So see, go ahead and I'm gonna let you lead. Tell the people kind of, I guess you could say how we know each other, how we got started, and then what your experience was like in the police academy, you know, and matter of fact, what made you want to be a cop? I think that's a good place to start.
Well, to be honest, the non-political answer was after college, you know, I was just trying to find my way in the world like everybody else, trying to figure some things out, trying to understand how I could put a dent, you know, in the universe, so to speak. And I went to college to work in film, and that didn't work out, and that deserves its own YouTube video in itself. But I found myself, you know, just looking for a job, and I was working in probation as just a regular civilian employee. And that relationship that I had working closely with police officers kind of brought me into the profession. And I always felt that I was good with talking with people. And I felt that I kind of understood, you know, some of the needs in our community. So I honestly just took a shot out of the dark and kind of got into the law enforcement profession. It's not something that I ever thought about. I was just basically in the right place at the right time. I needed a job. I was fresh out of college and not really sure what I was going to do. And, you know, that's how it kind of ended up. And, you know, obviously, you know, we met in the academy, probably there for two separate reasons. But, you know, sharing that experience of this paramilitary organization for the first time.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you being transparent with that. I think we've all stumbled in this profession for different reasons. And it's like, it's weird, you know, you have an idea of what you want to do. And you know, God kind of shifts us in different places.
Right.
And then next, you know, we're here. But one thing, after my accident, someone told me, I was having a lot of regrets about doing the job. And I was like, man, did I really make the impact that I really wanted to? And it took someone on the outside to tell me, say, hey, listen, you don't know how much of a major impact that you had on people, because people know my heart. And so when you think about how things changed, and like I know, working in the community, we both work the predominantly Black community. What are your thoughts on the type of impact that you've had in regards to our community that you could speak on as far as?
To be honest, I feel like I've had an impact, but I also feel like that you know, people have a lot of encounters with police, and it's not solely the officers that they come across. And I think that although a lot of people in our community can reflect on good experiences, I think because there's such a bad stigma in the media
Mm,
and their impression of what they see every day, I think that kind of overrides the overall picture. But what I tried to do, I always tried to leave an impression with people to get them to see that, that some of us do understand. Some of us come from similar communities with similar upbringings, and we understand that everybody in the community isn't a bad person. So I've had a lot of personal relationships, I guess, probably with just revisiting families, revisiting kids at school,
right.
just kind of reaffirming, that every time we encounter each other, it doesn't have to be because I'm here to arrest you or write you a ticket. So I can share one story with you where I was off duty. And this used to happen to me a lot, where I would run into a lot of people that I had an encounter with, either at a restaurant or in the mall. But this particular incident, I was at the supermarket, and I'm just shopping. I'm off in gym clothes, just kind of like just chilling, minding my business.
Right.
And a young lady stopped me, and she said, she's like, "Are you an officer?" And if you know me personally, in my personal life, I lie about this all the time. I don't ever like to share or say, yeah, I'm an officer, because, I don't know what experience a person has had, and I don't want to be,
Right.
So she's like, "Are you an officer?" I'm like, "Nah, I'm not an officer." And she's like, "No, yes, you are. I remember you." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure because you arrested me." And I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, "Did I?" And she said, and I'm like, "Well, how did I treat you?" I'm like, "Did I treat you bad?" And she's like, "No." And that was the worst part. You actually were very nice to me.
Mm,
And we kind of laughed and joked. But when I walked away from the conversation, I was proud of the fact that she wasn't even really too mad that I arrested her. What she remembered most is that I was nice to her. And I'm not trying to paint this picture like that's all of our interactions, and I've never had, an uncomfortable moment with someone. But that one moment always stuck out to me, and I just never forgot that. And that was always the goal.
right.
Obviously, in the profession you deal with a lot of difficult things, but that was always the goal. So
No, absolutely, man. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I've had similar encounters as well. I think at the end of the day, one of my fears too was, I always told people, like, I always want to give respect, even to the most dangerous of criminals that we come in contact with, is we still can show them a level of respect, And let me ask you this, though. I think that kind of segues into a good question. And listen, you guys in the chat, if you have questions, you can put your questions up. I'm going to vet the question, and then I'm gonna throw it up here.
some some of the people in the chat are very, very funny, I see.
Oh yeah, yeah. We got some comedians. We got
You
some
know what
comedians.
though? So let me just address something
Go ahead.
and I don't want to call the
Not
person's name out, but he'll know who I'm talking to, because I just happen to glance at the chat. I honestly, when I'm off, I always get this idea that, like, oh, you're not a cop, but you can't be a cop. And I think we need to stop, um, I guess, stereotyping on what we think every police officer looks like, what he sounds like, how he's supposed to fit the mold that you've created.
hmm
Um, Obviously, whether it was a joke or not, nobody's gonna come on here on an Instagram live and kind of pretend that they were a police officer when they really weren't. But in defense of what he was saying, I do get that a lot. I don't know what it is, why people think that I'm, what about my look that makes me not a cop? But you know, funny.
Facts. Facts. Shout out to this amazing Miss Lynette. She said, "Yep, people remember how you made them feel." RIP,
Agreed.
Dr. Angelo. It is so true, and thank you so much for joining, becoming a member of the channel. She is an amazing, amazing person, you guys. I'm going to talk more about that, but this is so true. Respect goes a long way, and let me ask you this though. See, when you think about this, about you as a person, how much of the way you do your job as an officer, how much of that is there a big correlation behind how you were raised, what you believe, your moral compass as a person, in general? How important is that for an officer to have strong character when it comes to doing this job? Because as we know, we are not all created equal. That's something that I always talk about on this channel, that all police officers are not created equal, and we are all individuals. And so, to your point about always showing people respect and leading with that, what is it about your character that makes it easy for you to do that, despite the power as an officer that we hold?
I just always kind of felt like, you know, to be truthful, like people deserve that. And I've had experiences growing up where I had bad encounters with police, and like I didn't do anything wrong. I had an encounter in, in New York on the train where literally the entire train was stopped. I was on an express train that wasn't supposed to stop for a long time, and the entire train stopped because a person on the train said it looked like I had a gun on me. And when the police got there, I mean, they treated me like I was one of the damn Oklahoma City bombers. Like, and I was like, 17 or 18. I was just a kid. And I'm just standing there like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but like I don't have no gun. I didn't do anything. Literally like 30 officers came to the platform and pulled me off the train. So I've never forgot like my moments that I've had with police. So I always try to keep that in mind. And to be honest, I mean, listen, everybody has a bad day. I wasn't perfect. I never not, I lost my temper at times, but the majority of the time, honestly, it's like kind of like a mental gymnastics where you just continue to talk to yourself, and you got to remind yourself that nobody deserves to be talked to just any kind of way because
Yeah.
you're having a bad day. Nobody deserves to be taken advantage of. And we wouldn't want that for ourselves or our loved ones. So, like I said, it's a delicate dance, and you really have to consistently remind yourself of that. And just to be fair, like a lot of times in that approach, it's a lot safer for you. When you're nasty and you escalate things, that's when I think that officers put themselves in danger, and that's how things kind of get out of control. So I
Absolutely.
was always conscious of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. Everything comes down to how you talk to people. We talk the most violent of people in the handcuffs, or you could take the most peaceful person and turn them into the most violent person. Easy.
Right.
With your words. Words have power. Absolutely. Dre's in the back. Let me show
What
you
do you
this.
say?
Let me pull this up what Dre said. He said, "See, would you consider Nate cool in the academy?"
In the academy, were we cool? I thought we was cool in the academy.
No, he's talking about, I guess he's saying if I was a cool person in the academy. No, we were cool.
Yeah, no, we were definitely cool. Yeah, no, we were definitely cool. So I don't know where Dre going with that one.
Dre trying to start some mess. I'm gonna bring him up a little later. So he can talk his mess.
But listen,
Um,
so let me add this. Let me run this thought by you. So
Go ahead.
in reference to other officers that might lose their cool more often than not, what I saw, so like I mentioned, my job prior to being in law enforcement, when I got, my little probation gig, getting paid $12, $13 an hour, whatever it was at the time, working in the court system, I would see like the court clerks and the people that would deal with the people coming in for traffic tickets. I would see that they were very nasty to people.
Yes.
Right. So this was before I became an officer. So 6 months later, fast forward 6 months later, I found myself one day losing my temper with someone in the court. I don't know what it was, but I know after I did it, I immediately thought to myself, this is what I used to see other people do. And I would kind of say like, yo, that's not right. So what the experience taught me is that often when you deal with people, and as you know, in the court system, you deal with people who got attitudes, they're mad that they're there. Everybody's innocent. Nobody deserved the ticket. So just to be fair, even the citizens come in with a bad attitude, and they push that on the people that work in the courts. And the
True.
people that work there, like, hey, I didn't give you guys a ticket. We didn't do anything wrong. So what I started to see was that they just started to reciprocate the energy. And
Hmm.
because they were dealing with that on a daily basis, it kind of turned them into, a nasty person at times. And I think that that's what happens to officers. You get jaded. As a cop, even the idea of death kind of becomes numb because
Yes.
you just see it so often. So I think that we have to understand, not that I'm trying to justify anyone's actions, but just offer the understanding is that people are human, and the experience as an officer, it is going to change you to some degree.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to be mindful of that. Again, not to justify anyone's behavior, but just so we can have an understanding that it is a difficult job and it does take its toll on every person differently.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because some would argue their pushback on that statement, because I agree with that. And it's very true. Since we're all different, we all handle stress differently, and the things it could be aligned up with like 20 officers. And what pisses me off won't be something that pisses you off. Right. And
Right.
so we all look at things and perceive things as a threat or the verbal threats differently. Like certain, a lot of words don't even, they roll right off my shoulder. They don't bother me. People can't get me upset with words, but at the same time, though, like you said, we're all human. We all have triggers at the end of the day.
Right.
Some people would say anytime an officer would make a statement like that, the first thing I hear them say is, well, if you're not tough enough, you shouldn't do the job, right? Like, I hate when people do that because they don't understand how much of this, it's like telling a person who takes out the trash every day, I'm tired of you smelling like trash. Can't you spray yourself with cologne these days? Like,
Right.
listen, I'm inundated with this stuff all the time. It's not as easy as what people think it is. A lot of people don't want to do the job. A lot of people don't have the mental fortitude to do the job properly, let alone do it at all. And so when we talk about just the overall difficulty of it, you're dealing with society's problems. And what do you say when people make a statement like that? Because I don't like it. It's this idea that if you couldn't handle it, you're right. If you can't deal with someone, calling you names or doing this or doing that, if you don't have the temperament of a monk, then this isn't the job for you. What do you say when people say stuff like that, or how does that make you feel?
To be honest, I don't let things like that bother me because I know that comes from a lack of understanding.
Right.
People are human, right? And to be honest, we're not trained military soldiers. It's a different type of training. There's an expectation that police are so skilled and so understanding in every facet of life. And it's like, we've had this conversation. There are a lot of things that you have to deal with as an officer that you're not trained for, you're not
Yep.
prepared for, and you get the training on the job. So it's not going to be perfect. I just think that people need to understand that, hey, we're human beings. There'll be a lot of times when I go out to lunch and I'm sitting down in uniform and I'm eating, people are just staring like, damn, like he's eating food. And it's like, yeah, like, people kind of lose the fact that, hey, look, I want Chick-fil-A like just like you want Chick-fil-A.
Right.
So
Right. They do. They put us in this almost like a celebrity type of status. But the
right.
one like the most hated celebrities sometimes. And I'm let's see what is he's correct. We are all human and make mistakes. I believe both sides could heal if they knew each other. Being serve and protect the community in which you live. That's where the support of the village. Yeah, and
Facts.
he's right. I like Bray's Club. He's very Bray's Club. He has a mindset too where he's like, we want he's very pro-black, and he wants the black community to have our own community with our own police that we train ourselves like a private police force, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know what I
Wait,
mean?
what? What?
So Braze has an idea. He's very pro-black, and he's very let's do for ourselves as a community. And if you have a segment of the community who's saying, I don't like the way we're being treated by the police, why don't we just have our own private police that we raise up in our own community, right? Almost like security, right? And handle our own calls in our community. I've worked a community like that, like a Jewish community, Jewish compound. They had their own security, private security. These guys were ex-military, whatever, but they controlled who they wanted to do the job. They hired who they wanted. They vetted who they wanted. And I said, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
But
Mhm.
I mean, in theory, and I guess Braves Talk will kind of have to explain more. But is this like us in a segregated community, or I'm trying to understand like where?
Yeah, it would be segregated. Yeah, it'd be
I,
segregated.
I think that's kind of going backwards. I mean, in my
Mm,
opinion, I mean, I think I understand like where he's coming from with it, but if we start segregating ourselves off, I think that that's going backwards. I mean, we're all here at this point. We all share this country. I
right.
think that the progress needs to be made, and how can we comfortably do it together and not apart. But that's just my personal opinion.
No, I respect it. No, I mean, I agree, and I think, but I think that's what happens too when we have the conversation. It's not all of us, right? It's not all Black people, but we do have a strong segment of our community that's very, I won't say anti-police, right? They're kind of anti-bad police, and they feel more comfortable. Not even with Black officers sometimes. A lot of the pushback I get since I've been on YouTube, going to different people's channel. I was on Kwame Brown's channel last night having a discussion, and there were people in his chat who were like, "We don't trust officers. We don't like Black officers. We don't like this. We don't like that." And I just don't understand the logic behind it. I'm a firm believer that if we want to bring change, we have to put ourselves in position of power, right? And we need to raise up the leaders that we want to see, steer this ship properly. So I'm gonna read this comment right here, see, because this gentleman right here, he's a good dude. We had a good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Fast Family Affair, he says the problem is that many police think they can say or do whatever they want to people, but will be quick to take someone to jail or shoot them when that energy is reciprocated. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that type of officer definitely gets more media attention than the officers that are going to the community, getting out their car, shooting hoops with the kids,
Yes.
taking kids to school, bringing. So I get it. I think that's just a part of life. I mean, if you go to a McDonald's enough, you're eventually going to run into some nasty people at the drive-through. So this idea that the police are not going to not have any bad apples is just, I mean, come on. But obviously, if there were as many bad apples as people thought, things would be a lot worse. I think that I'm not trying to discredit any of the concerns coming from the community because, to be honest, I agree with a lot of them. But we
Mm-hmm.
can't pretend that everybody is bad, and we can't pretend that we don't need the police. I mean, how would society function? How would we be able to have anything of value if there was no police? Like that idea, I don't understand where it comes from because even the people that don't like the police need the police. Um, and this is coming from a person in the profession. It's coming from a person. I've been on the wrong side of it, where you get stereotyped and you get profiled. Those things are not right, and we need to change it. But every officer is not like that, and I think we need to start to highlight more of the good. And I get focused on the corrections that we need to make because people's lives are being lost, but that's becoming too much of the conversation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And Braves Club, I apologize. I didn't mean to misquote you. We're not talking about anti-police. So I apologize about that. I definitely don't want to misquote you. I just know we like the idea of being able to do for ourselves. Um, yeah, absolutely. If you want to come up, Brace Club, if you got a minute, give us about 10 minutes and I'll bring you up. I'll drop the link to bring you up. I don't want to misquote you, so I definitely apologize. So I know your intentions are legit, and so I definitely don't mean to do that. See, you're absolutely right, and I talk about all the time. It's one of the main reasons why I started this channel to help to dispel a lot of that negative stuff that goes on in this profession. You guys, we have to understand that this is a concerted effort by the media and by powers that be that want us divided. And we're not making excuses for bad officers and trashy officers because we know them. We've worked with them, right? They've been arrested. We see it. And sometimes you have some officers that can circumvent around the same law that they're enforcing. And so we understand that, and we know it's not right. There's some officers that have privilege, right? They know somebody, they know the chief. They met, I knew a guy, he was dating the chief's daughter, or major's daughter, or something like that. And this guy he got away with some things. This is true in every profession, though. It's true in every profession. So yeah, Brace Club's a good dude. So I'm gonna have him come up so he can give his perspective as well. So see, real quick, What are your thoughts? And you touched on this a little bit about the unrealistic expectations society has for the officers. And this is one thing I've noticed too, is that there's a perception that people have that officers are trained at this level. And the expectations of society is way up here. But then some officers operate way below here, below society's expectations. How do we get more realistic? How do we get people to see like, hey, I said it before. Are we either gonna say we're either gonna admit that we're not as good as we claim we are, or that you
Right.
guys brag about as society, but we're not rising up to society's expectations. Not all officers, right? We know there's some amazing officers out here. We know there's some amazing police departments, but society does have a little skewed. They have a bad view in a sense of what they expect. What are your thoughts on that? And then what are your thoughts on training? The time, do we train long enough?
Okay. Well, the first question, I think it's just the narrative. I think that's just the media perspective, the stories that we hear the most. I'm pretty sure if, the powers that be wanted, and there was you can create a positive narrative around the police. You can show the positive things that everybody agrees with that's going on a daily basis. So I just think that's just the perspective, right? And unfortunately, for us as regular people, we don't control the narrative. The officers on the street and the citizens in the community, none of us control that narrative. So we're only seeing what the powers that be want us to see. So I think just in my experience, and see, there's a lot of good things that officers do.
Yes.
Like all of the food drives and the Christmas events and the toy drives, and yeah, those things get publicity, but there's officers that are going to community meetings, right? That are sitting down talking with families, and there's no spotlight on that.
Yes.
So it's just the narrative. I think that's most people believe in that, but I think that if you wanted it, you can also have the opposite narrative. So I think people need to be more involved. A lot of the people that complain, they don't know where their precinct is at in their community. They don't know who the commanding officer is. They don't know how to to get more patrols. A lot of people be surprised. All you got to do is walk into your precinct.
Mm-hmm.
Speak to someone and say, "Hey, I want more patrols in my neighborhood." And at our department, they would give you a form, and they say, "Hey, this is the form. We're going to keep it right here. You can come back and check. You can see how many officers came down your street at what time." A lot of people are not aware of that, and I think it just comes from a lack of being involved. People get real political during election season, or when there's a big story in the media,
Yep.
but it's just like, what are we doing the rest of the year? So I think if people want a different narrative, if they want to understand things better, they have to get involved. And we all know that being involved is like kryptonite to most of us.
Facts. That is so
I mean,
true.
it's just a fact. So
You guys, I say it all the time, we got to be present. We got to put ourselves in these rooms. I've done a lot of community events because I love interacting with the community, and it's like a ghost town. It's like a ghost town. We have to, as a community, we have to be more involved. People are saying, how do we hold police accountable? We can create a citizens review board. Okay, who's going to volunteer? How much does this really
right.
mean to you? We can say all these things. We're either going to complain or we're going to compete, and again, it takes work to bring about change. Complaining about it is just easier to do. What is shout out to Dre, the big homie. What does he say? He said it's not profitable for the media to show the positive image, the positive things officers do in the community. It's true.
There you go.
We talk about the lies or the propaganda. We talk about the disinformation that the media put out about black shootings. White officers that are shooting black people. They never show you the ones where the black officers are shooting black people, right? I've seen it. I know officers have done it, and it's justified. The media never talks about it. You never hear about it. It's almost as if the only time we hear about these things is when it's a white officer on a black person. We don't hear about all the white officers that shoot and kill white people. They never talk about it, And so again, you guys, we have to just be patient. We have to slow down, first of all, look at the bigger picture, and take our time and do our research and understand that people are trying to manipulate us into hating one another.
Right.
Just so easy as we have our own community that turns their back on Black men and women who put a uniform on. You know, I did a video about the history of policing, Black officers, Black police officers. And I talk about how we got started around 1867, you know, slightly after slavery was abolished. You guys, we wasted no time. We wasted no time jumping in, wanting to put the uniform on to serve our people because we understood how important being in a position of power was. It was something we took pride in, even though we didn't have the same rights and privileges as white police officers. You know, we still were willing to do the job, even in the process of being mistreated. You know, so, you know, these things don't change overnight, you guys, but we have to make the efforts. We got to respect and appreciate those who are doing the job. And at the same time, those who are doing the job, we also have to make sure, as officers like myself and see on here and other officers, Black officers who are doing this profession, we have to be willing to be respectable. We have to be someone worthy to be respected by the people we're serving. So it goes both ways. So I don't want people to think it's a one-sided relationship. Let me thank you so much, Daughter of Yah. I really appreciate this. I really appreciate the support, you guys. Thank you so much for the super stickers and for the super chats. Thank you so much, Dre, again for that. I really appreciate that, you guys. You know, it goes a long way every time you support the channel. If you see value in this, you guys, we have tough conversations. Let me go through here. I thought this was a good one. Bad officers are defunding the police with all the lawsuits and settlements against them.
I mean, are we aware of all of the lawsuits and settlements in the medical industry? You know, like it happens. It happens.
They're not aware. And I will say this, you guys, on average, and this is no justification, but we got to crunch numbers. I don't mind people telling the truth and let the truth lie where it lies. But the reality is we need to have all the facts before we make assumptions. The reality is, on average, police officers take about 1,200 lives a year. This is average, right? We're talking about, on average, 10 million police officers make arrests. They arrest 10 million people, right? A year. 10 million people are arrested on average a year. And so when we look at these numbers and we look at how many contacts that people have on average, 60 million people make contact with the police at least once on average a year, 60 million. And out of those numbers, not justifying it, unfortunately, approximately 1,200 people lose their life from a police encounter for a multitude of reasons. And we can always argue that there are some that are not going to be justified. There are some that look suspicious. But we do know that the overwhelming majority of them are justified shootings, right? And so, again, we have to be careful. We have to dissect it properly in order to understand what's really going on. And so when we look at now, you talk about doctors. What does C say? He says, listen, are you guys even paying attention about medical malpractice? They kill over 300,000, between 300,000 and 400,000 accidental deaths a year by the hands of a physician. You guys, 300,000. And we don't see anybody marching around talking about patients' lives matter, right? I don't see it. And
that's not including the prescription drug deaths. So I think what we can learn from that is that because it's not sensationalized in the media, you know, as the public, we tend to care less about it. And we care more about the police issue because of how it's portrayed in the media. And again, that's not to downplay it, but there are other issues that are equally important, if not more important, that we turn a blind eye to.
Yes.
So,
yes. Listen, I told y'all before he came up here, and he's taking it light. He's being light on y'all. This brother Sharp, he's sharp, you guys. You know, and he represents a lot of Black men and women in our profession who are doing this job. He's not the only one. I'm going to be bringing them up over the course of this year. I'm going to bring them up, you guys. And so I appreciate you giving us your time and your patience just to hear how we kind of break these things down. Let me see. Let me run through here. Let's see. What are people saying? Let me shout out my boy again. He said, that's a false narrative, Nate. The media shows Black unarmed men being shot by white police while running away, sitting. Now, I'm not saying, yeah, but fasten But here's the problem, you guys. We have to take the emotions out of these discussions that we're having. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're not accurate, right? Because this is not the norm. This is not the norm. These police shootings where officers are wrong for what they did, that's not the norm. And so
Right.
the media is taking these fringe incidences and then trying to make it and paint the picture like this happens all the time, and that's not true. That's not true, right? And so, I had this conversation the other day with someone about the prison population and say, oh, they're just locking all these brothers up. I said, no, these brothers are walking in these handcuffs. You guys, unfortunately, there's always going to be a small percentage that's questionable. You can't change that, right? We can't change the abuse of power. What we can do is reduce it. We can reduce the leverage that people are using the wrong way when they're using the power the wrong way, but you'll never get rid of it, right? We'll never get rid of it. That's why we have these discussions, so we can break these myths. He said, so the media shows black unarmed men being shot by white police. Yeah. Tell me how often that happens, though, in comparison to those who have weapons, who are attacking, resisting arrest. We have to take all those things in consideration. And so we need to understand what we're talking about in order to have the bigger conversation. So let me move on, though. So see, in your opinion, though, this is a question I wanted to ask you, because this got brought up on Kwame's channel. Why is there so much resentment for black men and women in uniform who are serving black men and women, when we know that the ones who are calling the police for the assistance of the police are black themselves? In your thoughts, what are your thoughts on that?
To be honest, I think that it's a couple of things. One being, it was never seen as like something cool to do. And we know, as black people in our community, we are the kings and queens of coolness, right? And if it ain't cool, it's like, what are you doing, man?
Right.
And I think that that perception of like officers always being a certain type of way and not being cool is the first issue. Like I said, in my personal life, when I go out and I'm hanging amongst my, brown brothers, sisters, whomever, right? I never would share it outside of my personal circle. When we would meet people, maybe we go to a bar, we go out to eat. I forget the lies I used to tell when I was a young officer, but I would never share it,
Right.
because it was never seen as cool, and often because of what some of our family members have experienced, what we've experienced as personal people with the police. Maybe a little arrogance from an officer, a little bit of officer, talking to you unprofessionally. There was a dislike, and I'm not saying that comes from nothing, right? Like, we all understand where the dislike comes from in our community. So I think that's a major part to do with it. And then secondly, especially within the past 10 years, all of the police shootings, it just has not been cool to be an officer, just in general. So I think it's more of just a perception thing with people. So
yeah, and I would say, along with perception, a lot of times people would like to give their anecdotal experiences. And what I've
right.
learned about that, people say, oh, well, how can you say that my experience wasn't bad? I'm telling you I had a bad experience. But then what I've noticed with that, and this is no disrespect to people who've had bad experience with police officers, I've seen it happen. I've checked officers, and I have to make sure I ask about that. Have we ever had to check police officers in the middle of the job? Absolutely, right? And so a lot of people don't think
Have
that
I?
yeah. Have you? That's a good question. What's your thoughts on that? Have you ever seen an officer, not necessarily if they were doing something illegal or if they were, but if they were doing something where they were pushing the envelope too far, maybe using too much, being too extra, excessive, whether through words or through physical. You
Right.
just ever had to just kind of check an officer, tell an officer to chill out?
Well, I think probably on a weekly basis, I probably would have to check somebody escalating a situation, but I've
Right.
never been in something where somebody was doing something illegal or someone was abusing someone's rights. And it's just like, hey, like, you need to chill out because you're going too far. So that was my initial thought when you asked the question. But in terms of escalating, there's always officers that come in and they're just like super rowdy. You get to the call first, you got everybody calm. They come in there with their chest puffed out, badge is about the size of their head, and it's like, hold on, So definitely in that way, but not like never nothing illegal. Like where it's like, I've never personally dealt with that. I'm pretty sure it's happened to somebody.
Right. Someone asked me that same thing before, and they didn't believe me when I said it. And I told them that I associated myself with people who had good hearts, people who had integrity on the job. I was never put in a situation where someone was doing something illegal or abusing their power in a way to which it was illegal, right? I've never been in a situation like that, but I look at the officers that I gravitated to, and me and you, we work different precincts, but at the end of the day, you know, I think people find that hard to believe because they think it's the norm, right? They think that there's just a bunch of corrupt officers just running around. And now I would argue, though, a lot of people don't really understand how corruption works. And I think that's one of the biggest issues too. They don't understand how that thing is nuanced in a department. And so I plan on doing a video about that later on, just kind of break something down, but we're not gonna dive too much into that. I want to pull up a comment. This gentleman here, look at Dre. Dre said he's taking it easy. He really is, you guys. He's taking it easy. This gentleman right here, he's we have our debates back and forth. He's very pro-black as well. He said we volunteer for medical procedures. He's talking about the difference between doctors and police. No one volunteers to be racially profiled and assaulted. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, okay, anytime you give an analogy, somebody always finds a way to dig deep into the analogy to say, nope, it's not a contrast. I don't think that was the point of us. The point is that often there's malpractice, meaning somebody does something wrong.
Right.
Right. And I think we were trying to point out that is the nature of human beings. Becoming a police officer is not going to make you immune to ever doing something wrong, making a mistake. We are very impressionable beings, right? And oftentimes you become part of your experience, right? Can we agree that a lot of our young men and young women that live in bad neighborhoods, they often become tough and harder than they need to be than most people that are living in good neighborhoods, right? That's not because they were born that way. That's because the environment has shaped them. Correct. And that happens in every profession, right? Any profession where people deal with people often, there's a point in time where you could get customer service and it's not going to be to your standards. It's going to be nasty. Now I get it. Police have a lot of power. They have the right to take away your freedoms. They can, take money out your bank account by giving you a ticket. So I'm not trying to excuse any bad examples anybody can bring, but we need to stop pretending that police are not going to be fallible, right? It's just a part of life. And like you said, the statistics would show that with all of the encounters that we have with people, they're far more good than bad. Yes. Far more good than bad. We're arguing about a very, very small percentage, right? Deservingly, but I think that we need to keep that in perspective.
Yeah, and I think what people don't realize, there is an organization that actually reaches out to people who citizens who have had encounters with the police, and they give a survey, and I forgot the name off the top of my head, but they do a survey for those who have had contact with the police, and they're rating that encounter, and they use that for data purposes. But this is something that I believe we need to do and create moving forward. We need people to have an opportunity to actually speak directly about their encounters, positive and negative, right? And say, hey, in this moment, I had this encounter with this officer. I got a ticket. Here's how I was treated. Here's how this could have been better. And those things need to be submitted to the department, right? Or submitted to an outside organization to look at, so we can get some real-time data on people's encounters. Because you guys, unfortunately, and here's what I say though, I think some of these things need to be on law enforcement. I feel like the PR in this profession is so horrible, right? It's almost, I remember working, just the idea that we would just work and just push past all the BS, push past all the pain, the propaganda. We never entertained it. But I feel like that has done more harm than good. And it's allowed this perception to build up to a point to where people believe this is the reality, right? When you think about what type of counter messages have we put out on a massive scale to help counteract, who's doing the research on behalf of law enforcement, right? Are we investing in our own marketing to really fix the problem? I think that's one of my big reform ideas, is that we have to counteract the messages of negativity, tell the statistics in its entirety, right? A lot of times they say, oh, blacks are disproportionately killed more than whites, and it's like when you look at the numbers are very clear, right? On average, it's the 250 black people are killed by the police. On average, it's 450 whites. It's very clear every year. It's very consistent,
right.
And so we want to sprinkle these pretty words around data and statistics to try to form our own narrative. But the reality is, who gets killed more, right? And so I always think that's very interesting. What do you think about police PR just overall?
I think that's, I mean, yeah, in a perfect world, of course, right?
Right.
I don't understand the business side of police departments. I can't imagine that that's something that, again, that would be something. Then you'll have a certain segment of the population that'll be complaining that their tax dollars are being wasted, for this, this $150,000 person to be a special PR spokesman and to do these daily activities. So I think that people need to be more involved. There are a lot of events, there are a lot of like community organizations that deal with police and encounter with police on a weekly, if not daily basis. So just get more involved. There's never going to be like a PR firm. I mean, maybe for some of these big departments, NYPD, LAPD, maybe they have the money for it, but like rest of the country, that's not happening. It's not happening. So I think people just need to get more involved, get to know the officers that work their community. Let's be honest. All of the people in the chat, how many does anybody know any of the officers that patrol the area that they live in?
Wow.
Or supervisor. I'm pretty sure most people don't, because most people don't care to. We only care to be involved when there's a big media story, and now we all want to be involved with what the police should do, how how the funds should be given. Like, I just think people need to get more involved, man. Like this gets like, and I know I'm coming off like I'm not, trust me, I'm with the community on a lot of issues, but we got to call a spade a spade. We can't pretend that like, we're up and we're in tune with everything that's going on.
Absolutely. No, you're right. I think that's where the disconnect is. It's easy to tell a person how to do the job versus do the job yourself, right? Because you imagine going in the operating room and telling the doctor how he should have stitched you up better, right? And I think we do know that there are a lot of areas where we can do better as police officers. We do know that. We can all acknowledge that. And I want to ask you too, I'm gonna make sure I write it down so I don't forget. We do know that's very important, but since we're on this topic, because we believe accountability falls both ways. Brazen Club says the perception is what perception is. He said, okay, that's why the perception would not matter if police patrol their own neighborhoods in which they live. Why do you think? Why do you think of? What do you think of that about officers patrolling the communities? Listen, I've lived. I can answer that. I'm gonna let you answer. See, we've both lived in the communities that we've patrolled. Because I remember where we used to live at. I used to also live in the same community. Tell the people what the pros and cons of that is. And this is, you guys, this is why this is so important. We have these discussions. This is why this whole idea of the blue veil, blue curtain is a bunch of BS, because it's not helping us build relationships, right? I'm going to bring more officers here to talk to you guys so we can remove the stigma. And so, and these questions, this is why I want you guys to ask these questions, because this is a way we can get closer together and rebuild this relationship. When we understand what's really going on, you hear from people who are doing the job. What are the pros and cons? Because people say that all the time. Hey, officers should live in the community they serve. What are the pros and cons? Can you give it to us?
I mean, obviously the pros, people believe that if an officer lives in the community, he's going to understand the community more, and that will allow him to effectively police better. Now, obviously, this is just my personal opinion. It's not backed by anything. So don't try to roast me too much in the comments, but I don't think that. I honestly don't. I mean, I've been Black my whole life, obviously, right? I don't need to live in, if I decided to move to Detroit, I don't need to live in the community to understand Black people and to understand the struggle and to understand the family dynamics, right? Because I come from a similar neighborhood. So I don't think necessarily that every officer does. And let's be honest, there is a big safety thing, right? Police officers are not liked. Now imagine a white officer that lived in the middle of a Black neighborhood and he pulls up every day with his cop car and parks it in front of his house. I don't think that's, I mean, it's not even, it's not realistic. Nobody is doing that. So the cons far outweigh the good, because even if you're a good officer, you have a good heart, whether you're a man or woman, and you're trying to do good and you move into the community, the same community will rob you.
Yes.
So where's the benefit? I think a lot of us as Black people, we understand our struggle, right? Whether it's due to our own experience or friends or family. So I don't think that it's necessary personally. And I think that if you want to make the case for white officers, I think that if you're around people enough, right, and you spend enough time, you can also gain a similar experience and understanding. You don't have to live there. That's just my thoughts. But I mean, what do you think?
I agree with that. I've watched a lot of one. I remember when I first started living in the community, I was extremely paranoid, and I wasn't treating people bad, but it was the idea that we knew officers who were robbed, officers whose cars and their property were vandalized. I knew officers whose homes were broken into, and and if you're an officer and you have a family, right? You're out with your family and you live in that community and you come across someone that you had to arrest or someone you have to deal with. You have people who could be very vengeful. Listen, you have celebrities
Right.
and rappers who get shot up in their own communities, and they're there, right, building stuff, creating stuff. They can't even go back to their own community. So, imagine how we are treated. We're not hood celebrities if we're out working in the hood or working in different communities. We're not. So you are a target sometimes from our own people, unfortunately. And though there's a lot of love, we don't want to say that the community just hates us, but there is some resentment. And so it is unsafe. It can be unsafe. I remember telling my mom and my sister, even just my siblings in general, if you see me in uniform and I'm out in public, don't speak to me. Don't speak to me unless I acknowledge you first, because you don't know what I'm doing, what I'm investigating. You don't know what the circumstances are in that moment that you catch me. And I don't want you to become a target, right? You guys don't know, like, even before I decided to do YouTube, I decided to do this, put my own name out and everything like that, because, I'm all on the news already. So it's just kind of like, hey, it is what it is. But there are times where I wouldn't even give out my last name. I wasn't on social media. You guys, it's a lot for us to come out here and speak. We can't downplay this. You don't know how sensitive this profession is. And just having officers come and speak their truth is a very, very big deal. I want us to make sure we understand that to the highest degree. This is not something that we take for as a joke. When I decided to come out here and put my face out here, it was for all the marbles, right? And because I really believe in what I'm doing, I believe in this movement. I believe in what I'm trying to build and repair this relationship. And, it's not a game. And I know how officers feel when they have to come out here and speak about these things. And so it's not easy. So I believe that we need more people who look like us to patrol our communities. I think that will create more comfort for community members who are Black. I think it makes people feel more comfortable. Now, there's always going to be that tension there for some people, but I think that at the end of the day, people who dislike the police feel more comfortable with police who look like them, and I feel like we can honestly just say that. I think that's a safe way to look at it.
Well,
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I do think that I think the good people in our community, right, which is obviously, people in the chat, yeah, I think they would feel more comfortable, right? But I think the people that are out here that's really committing crimes, right,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what color the officer is, they're not going to care, right? Because you're an officer,
Right.
you're 12, you're 50, or whatever the new name is nowadays. So I think that's irrelevant to the criminal who isn't going to like you regardless, right? I was here one day when you were talking about when we were in the academy and two officers got killed.
Yes.
And I don't know if you shared the story.
Mm-mm.
How they got killed they weren't even doing anything. They were off duty. working a side job, and they just walked up on a car with the intent of saying, hey, move along, because they don't want anyone loitering on the property. They had no idea that the people in the car had just committed a home invasion.
Yeah.
They were sitting in the car with all the stuff that they stole, with the illegal guns, the whole 9 yards. And immediately, when the dudes in the car, right, the criminals, they saw the officers, their instinct was, they're here to arrest me. They're a threat. They didn't say, oh, wait, these two officers look like me. Maybe they just want to say hello, ask me how I'm doing. They didn't take the time to do that because they're criminals. So I think that a lot of times the voices in our community are not the people who are obviously committing the crimes. So there's a disconnect. They're always going to be happy when they see somebody that looks like them, because you ain't doing nothing wrong. You're going to be like, oh, okay, the officer going to understand. Yeah, I'm out here. Maybe I'm selling water, a good person. I shouldn't be selling without a permit. But those type of things are not what's causing most of the drama between Black people and police, right? The little, smaller infractions, so to speak. It's these big cases that get blown up because someone gets shot and killed. And I understand, because, we spoke about it. A lot of these are just, it just don't make any sense. They're unjust, but.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
so I just didn't think that would change anything.
no, I agree. I think sometimes this in our community, the smallest minority has the loudest voice, right? And that's why I always say the people who are calling for help in our community are Black people who really want peace and tranquility in our communities, and they're being a lot of times terrorized by the 5%. The ones that we arrest and get right back out.
Right.
And so I want to say a quick shout out to Latasha Smith. Thank you so much. I got that Cash App. Thank you so much for that. I really, really appreciate that. She put the Dark Knight on there. Thank you guys. Yeah, you guys, if you want to Cash App, feel free to. It goes towards the movement. It goes towards my donut addiction. You guys know all of that, those sweets, Krispy Kreme action. Thank you guys so much for that. I really, really appreciate it. Some of you guys who have some really intense questions, you can always super chat your questions up. I love to honor it on the
Yeah,
screen.
I was gonna say, I'm reading some stuff as you're talking. I'm glancing, and it's like, man, I kind of want to address some of these.
Hey, let me know what you want to address. Absolutely, anything.
I mean, I'm seeing a lot. And some people are asking some good questions, but let me see, where did one go?
Let me know when you find it. I like this one. Brazy
give me
says,
a second.
Take your time. Brazy Club says, I believe our interactions are a transfer of energy and are unknown on both parts. I agree with that. The person committing current crimes should be approached with caution. The problem is, you guys, as officers, we don't know. I've come across people who were on their way to do a home invasion, and I didn't know. I just saw a car parked. I'm driving up on it. I was going to leave a little parking ticket and find that there were 4 guys in there, ducked underneath, trying to wait for me to pass by. Long story short, there's ski masks, there's guns that are stolen, there's zip ties, there's duct tape in the car. They're getting ready to hit a drug house in that neighborhood, and they were setting up shop, you guys. And listen, matter of fact, let me add to that story. One of the occupants got up and ran. We chased him in the middle of the street. We arrested him. Guess what? I was out there by myself. Guess who helped me? A passerby passing by got out and saw me wrestling with this guy and helped me put him in handcuffs. And the passerby was white. Listen, at the end of the day, you guys, this is an extremely dangerous job. And at the end of the day, there's no way to tell how things are going to turn out. We freestyle this thing all the time. It's not easy. I think that's a very good question, though. The transfer of energy is very important. And sometimes officers can create the worst scenarios for themselves because their energy is bad. This is very true. This is why, we're going to talk about training in a minute. Let me get see what you got, what you see up there that you
Well, there was one guy was saying that police are always worried about their anonymity, but they're not worried about ours. And I guess he was referring to the public. Obviously, police are worried about their anonymity for their safety. Like, they're worried about disclosing their personal information for their safety. When you leave your house every day, you're worrying about you might worry about your safety, but not for the same reasons. No one is not going to harm you because of the job that you do. So it's just obvious why police worry about that. But another commenter said, something tells me that we're living in the wild, wild west where you have to protect yourself on your own. right now, Los Angeles is becoming Gotham City. So I want to address this. And obviously, I don't represent any of the two departments that I've ever worked for. I'm just speaking from my own personal opinion. I think people need to understand that, and this is going to be a controversial take. Okay.
Let's do it.
People need to understand that your personal protection, right, generally speaking, is your personal responsibility, right? As we know, on the side of every police car, it says in an emergency, dial 911, right? And in the event that myself or any other officer is ever in a situation where you can be helped or your life can be saved or your property, obviously the officer is going to do it. I don't know the statistics on this, but I can almost guarantee, based on my experience, the majority of the time that police people have to call 911, it's often too late, right? And we take away this idea that we don't have to be responsible for our own safety. I mean, there are literally laws written on the book that allow people to protect themselves and their property. And people really misinterpret, in my personal opinion. Again, I'm not representing any department when I'm saying this, but people often misinterpret protect and serve. I don't think people understand what that means, right? The protection is your rights. Correct. Right? And officers he has to protect the rights of the people that he encounters, not necessarily protect you. Right. But again, obviously, given the situation, I have to keep reiterating this because somebody's going to spin it. Obviously, an officer is going to protect you with his life. Right. But the protection, to me, and protect and serve, his job is to protect the rights of every person that he encounters. How we perform our service, right? And people are not going to want to hear this, is by enforcing the laws of the elected officials that they elect. That's the service. That's how we serve the community. You vote for this person, they create this law, right? And we serve by enforcing it. That's how it kind of keeps society spinning to some degree, right? That's how we keep the party moving, right? And I think people misunderstand that. The protection is your rights, the service is enforcing the law. And obviously, when anybody gets caught, whether it's speeding, whether it's possession of a gun or marijuana or, jaywalking, nobody wants the service part enforced on them, right? Including me. I'm a human being. I'm no different than you guys. You know what I mean? But that's the point of all of this. That's how we keep the party moving. So I think that we just need to respect that. On sometimes we might find ourselves on the end of a speeding ticket, right? You can't get mad at the officer, right? These were the laws that were created that were, these people were put into power to create the laws by the people. So all of this always falls back on the citizens. We have been given the most power and authority by the government. We just don't take the time to understand it and use it correctly, right? We're all so busy with our lives. And I understand it. Again, I'm not trying to remove myself from any of the responsibility because I'm no different than anyone else. But we get so busy in our lives, I think we tend to forget that the power was truly placed with us and we just choose not to do anything with it. So that's really what protect and serve means. People get on TV and they say something different.
I tell people, well said, first of all, well said. I tell people all the time that you can't protect and serve until you law enforce. I said we are law enforcers before we protect and serve, and that's, they sold that to us. They sold it to the community because it's cute. It sounds good, but it's not accurate. We are law enforcers. And if we just so happen to protect you while we're serving you, then cool. But the law and enforcement comes first. Shout out to Daughter of Yash said, I have two officers come to my house. Ironically, the white officer was more respectful to me than the biracial officers. Some officers need to tone down the power tripping. This is true. This is so true.
I think I touched on that earlier. Again, I'm not making an excuse. I think that's ridiculous. I think that even if we remove police to the side, I think that people that walk around and bully other people because they have the power to do it, I mean, it's terrible. And obviously, they shouldn't do it. I think that police, again, maybe we need more psychological evaluations. Maybe we need more, counseling. Because police deal with a lot of stuff every single day and they start to become agitated, right? You deal with people that's yelling at you every day. You deal with families and their, issues that they're going through. You take on all this stress. and eventually you start to become it, right? So now you walk into a call, you have an honest person that's done nothing wrong, and you feed that energy into them. And I just think it becomes a cycle. And again, I'm not trying to justify, the officers that disrespected you, daughter of Yah, but it's a cycle that police officers go through, and that's never addressed, at least in my experience.
Same
Maybe
here.
in some department in Oregon, they have a special program set up, but there's no counseling or constant therapy sessions that officers have access to, because again, people have to pay for it, right? And who's gonna want to pay for that for us, for officers to go through that? So I just think that a lot of times the energy that we get from dealing with, negative situations on the job every day, I think we would be crazy to expect that at some point a citizen is not going to get that back. And again, I'm not saying that it's right, but if you just take the time to think about it, it's obvious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to ask you, something. Jay Black says most officers don't know the Constitution that they are sworn to uphold. Agreed. I agree with this. What are your thoughts on 6C? What's your thoughts?
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. So, I mean, what are you going to do though?
Yeah, this is the problem. Let's dive into it because before I get into this is a good question to dive into training. But what are your thoughts on, do you think, what would it look like if citizens were required to do like a ride along, right? Like how you're required to do jury duty and things like that. Do you think there's a benefit for citizens doing ride alongs and seeing what officers do?
I think so. I think so, because right now the current ride along system that we have with our communities all across this nation is whatever current TV show you watch, that's your favorite police TV show. And that starts to become your impression of what should happen. And we always get the, oh, like, why did you have to shoot them? They have a knife. Or why couldn't you shoot them in the leg? And you get these really weird things. So I think anything that brings people closer to the profession so they can have more of an understanding, I think will ease a lot of the tension. But again, are people willing to do that?
Right.
Most of my ride-alongs, just to be honest, have been white people. Out of all of, I've had a couple of black people here and there, right? And to be honest, I kind of want to say the black people that I've had, it was like a program that they had with their school or something. I don't think I've ever had a black citizen that was just concerned, that kind of wanted to see what was going on.
Correct, like a genuine interest.
Right, like a genuine interest.
Yep. All the ones I've had about 4. And the ones and 2 were black, and they were all school related. And again, you guys, we got to put ourselves in position. But Jay Black, that's a great question. It's going to lead me into this next topic about training. And then I'm going to drop the link and let you guys, those who are brave enough to come up and ask questions. Listen, if you come up and ask questions, you guys, you have to cam up. I have a guest, with all due respect. I'm not gonna have nobody come up here acting silly. Let me see. Training. Are we trained long enough, in your opinion? Do you feel like people talk about Finland? And Finland, I think, is like 3 years. Their officers have to be in.
Have you verified that? I mean, I've seen that on social media.
I haven't been able to find it yet. But I'm looking into it. I'm gonna look into it. But I mean, that's a long time. But to your, based off what you know and what I know, how do you feel about the training? Do you feel like when we got out, did you feel like we were in training long? Well, one, when we trained long. We had a very long academy. I think our academy is longer than most in Georgia. But in your opinion, though, do you think officers need more training, just in general, to do this type of job?
I think that the academy training that we had, right? Mm-hmm. Honestly, I think that was long enough. Right, it was 6.5 months. Right, it
was long.
I think that the state requirement is what, 12 weeks?
Yes.
Am I right? Okay.
Like 13. So, yeah, like 13 weeks or something like that.
Okay, let's just say 15 on the long end, right? But that's a big difference between that and 6.5 months. So I think, yes, at some point, right, people need to understand there's only but so much that you can learn in the classroom or in a non-real, in a fake environment that the academy tries to create with dummies and pictures and scenarios where it's like Nathan is playing the drunk husband and I'm playing the out of control son. Like, that can only go but so far to make you feel like you're in a real environment. So I think that what a lot of people don't know is that we do get more training than the academy. As you know, right? We train yearly. You have to maintain a certain amount of training hours every year to continue to be a police officer. Now, I do think that obviously you can make the argument it would serve us better if we had more than that, if there was some sort of bigger requirement. But in practice, that sounds good on paper, but in practice, these departments don't have the time and the manpower for this to be a reality. Let's just be honest. Like, so yes, we could benefit from more training 100%, but I don't think that practically, especially looking at, the departments that, that we both have worked for, where will they get the time to do this? How?
Right. And not only that, how do you train it? Because crime is still occurring. And this is why I tell people that we can talk about police reform, but you cannot talk about police reform if you're not going to address community reform, crime reform. How do we get the crime down, right? Police, unfortunately, the police are a reflection of the crime that's being put out, right? And so this whole idea here in Atlanta, the crime is through the roof now. It's like Gotham City, and now they're like, hey, we need to do something about this crime. The crime is too much. Every weekend, someone's being killed, being shot. We had a 15-year-old that just got killed yesterday. And so we have all this crime that's going on. And what do people say? They say, we're the police, right? So just not too long ago, we don't want the police. And then now it's, how can we get more? And then, we're rushing this process, but we're not really creating, I would say, we're not taking the time to create the best candidates to do this job. Not everybody has the ability to handle power, and there's a lot of power in this job. And in order for this to work, where we get more training, longer training for like a year or so, they would have to reduce the type of calls we respond to. We'd have to really reimagine this whole thing that we call policing in this country. And that's a surgical work for another day. I'm going to drop the link real quick. And for those who want to come up, I'm going to limit you guys as, my guests. I can't have them all night, you guys. So we're not going to be pulling those 6-hour joints like we normally do. But please come up, drop your question real quick, be respectful. Moderators, I just dropped the link for the to come up if you want to ask a question. C, did you see anything else in there that you wanted to address?
It's been a few things. Yo, Trash Can Waves. I don't know who this dude is, but I know he's the funny one in his friend group.
Yeah,
he's definitely the funny one.
He's the comedian. That's a good brother.
But somebody was saying that that people become police for the wrong reason, and I think that like we got to get out of this storybook fantasy of this perfect utopia that people are looking for. Right. You're absolutely right. People are going to become police officers for the wrong reason, right? For the same reason that people are going to rob and steal people for the wrong reason. In society, people need money. People need security. People need an outcome that they can be happy with, right? And if right now the police department is offering a job that a man or a woman qualifies for, and they're tired of working retail, they're tired of not, the good benefits that they have, wherever they work, of course they're going to pick that. That's not something that they wanted to do as a child or something that they think that they will be good at, but it's an outcome in the paycheck. And as bad as that sounds, that's the reality. So I think the larger problem that he's trying to get at, there's a problem in our society, right? And that is the underlying issue with everything. There's a money issue. So there's always going to be people becoming police officers for the wrong reason. How do you address that? We make our society better, right? But that's a whole different type of conversation. And we know that is it's an unlikely reality, right? If you look at some of the happiest countries in the world, right, they're all the Nordic countries, Denmark, Switzerland, Finland, right? And what do all these countries have in common? That everything is almost equal amongst everyone, right? Amongst everyone. How many people in the chat got 2 or 3 cars? How many people got an extra room that they're not using? Oprah did a show. I forget what country she was in. She was in a Nordic country, but these people live very modest, right? Now, these are the happiest countries in the world, but are we willing as greedy Americans to live in a society like that? Where people over there, I'm sure they're coming police officers for the right reason. But I don't know. I know that's another subject, not to dive too deep into that, but those are things that we don't consider. Correct. But we got to get out of this storybook idea of what police departments should look like.
Right. And understanding that police are a reflection of society. You know, people are saying, where are we getting these people from? We're getting it from the gene pool that's current day, right? And again, you guys, this is not to say that police aren't being held. We're not going to hold them accountable. There's a lot of work that we need to do. What we're saying though is that the work has to happen on both sides. It has to happen on both sides. Let me ask you, what else you see in the chat? I got anybody want to come up, please come up if you're interested. You want to give some input. You have a question. Some of you guys are always. We have some very bold ones in the comment section. You know, you guys don't be shy. You know, it's all about respect. This is a learning moment. We're not here to get on nobody's throat. We're here to just be respectful and have a good conversation. You guys have been asking me to add these dialogues and discussions. And when the opportunity presents itself, you guys are not participating. So, well, no, I won't say not participating. You are participating, but you know, come up if you guys want to come up and ask something directly. So the moderators can drop the link again. Someone wants to talk about. Well, let me see what you find out. I'm gonna bring up something specifically. Someone's asking.
Okay.
About qualified immunity, which I think is
I just
always.
saw that.
Yeah. So Nathan, this guy sounds like an honest convenience. Cool. I don't know if you saw this one. Let me see.
Yeah, they want to address that immunity policy for police. But I want to know specifically what his understanding of that is.
Oh, okay. Before we go into it,
yeah. Like I need to like.
Yeah, Wes, do you want and Dre? I see you. I'm about to bring you up, Dre. Let me see. My man, pound for pound. I like this brother. He's a good brother. He say yeah, work. It's all good, bro. Keep your questions coming on pound for pound. You're a good dude. So you just let me know if you got any questions. We're gonna tackle this. This question real quick. I'm gonna bring Dre up. Have us a quick little academy.
So pound for pound is saying that we're not training long enough. I mean, it's again, after a while, you there's only but so much you can learn in the classroom. You got to put the people from the academy on the street, so they can have some hands-on training. And despite popular opinion, there's always training to some degree, right? Mm-hmm. Even when you're fully released, you no longer have to be shadowed by another officer. You're still shadowed by the senior officers of the department. You know, they're still monitoring what you're doing. That doesn't mean that people are not going to make terrible mistakes, right? Enough training can never prepare you from being shot at in real life, right? Because we can't simulate that. You can't simulate being shot at in the academy, right? You can't simulate, you know, people that you perceive, you know, as some sort of criminal or threat that have, you know, a car full of guns and drugs. You can't simulate that. Like, you have to be in the environment to kind of understand what that moment feels like. So I don't know how much training people want, but despite popular opinion, the officers do train a lot and often.
This is true.
And specifically for the reason of liability, right? When someone sues an officer, they have to go after the city or the county first, right? You can't sue the officer without suing the department. So what the departments try to do is they try to overtrain you to say, hey, nope, we're not going to pay for this officer's mistake because on this day, at this time, he was trained to deal with this situation, right? So you got to understand, from the business part of it, this is America. Trust me, they cross their T's and dot their I's in a lot of areas to alleviate themselves, to say that, hey, we trained them on how to deal with this. But the reality is, and Nate, you can comment on this, like sometimes the training pales into comparison to what the real environment exercise is like. Mm-hmm. You know, like there's just no way to simulate it. So even though you train me for it, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm prepared to be shot at. I'm prepared to be in a fight. You know, I got into fights with men and women. One of the worst fights I got into was with 3 girls jumped me. And it's because I was trying to restrain myself from hurting them. You know, like that was the person in me worrying more about them than myself. So it's just like nothing, you can't prepare for that. You know, like there's nothing that you can do to simulate 3 people hanging, you know, off your neck and your arms. Like even like, you know, we have fight day. Does that make you feel like you're in a real fight?
No, but what it did show me, and I'm glad you brought that up. Let me go ahead and bring Dre up for this conversation about fight day. Do officers have standard?
Hey, I won my fight.
You did win your fight.
I won my fight on fight day, and I was the
So,
underdog.
See Boogie.
What up, Dre?
What's up, big boy? Always good to see you. Yeah, man.
it's
Good to see you as well,
2%
man.
of 2% of the gang right here.
My fight was a draw.
Your fight was a draw.
I had
Hey,
I had P. I had CP.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You know what's funny is you guys. So for those who don't know, in our academy, I don't know if this is true for others. I know a lot of academies don't do this. But what's very unique about our police academy, they made us knuckle up, put gloves on, and box each other. And what did that do? It gave us an opportunity to see, one, who had them hands, two, how good of a chin you had, and three, if you didn't have them hands at all, right? How quickly you fall. And I think the power of this day, because there was a lot of we could talk about it. There was a lot of tension going on. Go ahead, Dre. What are you about to say?
I'm just gonna put things in perspective for folks. When we graduated, we had folks on crutches, folks with black eyes and busted lips. And I forgot if it was the chief or one of the judges asked, "What the hell did we go through?"
Right.
But one thing we learned is that folks who we thought had hands didn't have hands, and those who we thought couldn't fight was wicked with them things. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it gave you perspective. Like, we walked in there together. Like, yo, we're the toughest group. We're the largest academy class to come out of this department. You can't touch us. I mean, we ran 6 miles every day. We ran to the
Yep.
mall. And then we get on that field because we thought we did OC day, we did all this other stuff, and we thought we was the shit till fight day. There was a lot of tension, a lot of jaw jacking, you know what I'm saying? And then the gloves came on, the mouthpiece went in, and we were like, "Damn, I do not want to be anywhere near you when shit hits the fan."
Yep. And it showed us, you guys, what it showed us as well that we had officers. I remember learning for the first time there are people in the police academy who never been in a fight before, and all their adult from adolescent teens to adults, young adults, whatever you want to call it, mid-30s, never been in a fight before. And so we have to look at that about what does the training look like? They always told us that, hey, your training doesn't stop after the academy, and respectfully, I had to put my hands on someone who was jaw jacking all through the academy. You guys remember I went on and I had to put a list. I said I put a paper on the top of the front you remember that?
Yeah.
Who want to give the story? People gonna think I'm capping. See, what's up? You want to tell the story?
Did you fight V?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, listen, my memory is not great about the paper and all of that.
Oh,
but
no,
I know that he left. I know that he left that fight. He looked bad. He looked like he been in a fight with Floyd Mayweather. my man left that fight bad.
All right, so let me break it down to you. So everybody
hold on, Dre, real quick. There was a person that said something that I think that we should address after Dre gives the story. Miss Globe Girl and then New Growth. They had two important questions that I kind of see, and I just wanted to acknowledge them.
All right. Is that the being on the streets one from Miss Globe Girl?
Yeah, about the training, and then New Growth had a comment about our officers more loyal to the department or the community.
Oh, that's a good one. Got it. I got it saved. Go ahead.
Right,
Go ahead.
So our academy instructor kind of started throwing some salt, right? Saying that folks that you knew couldn't beat you will beat you. So there was a lot of jaw jacking. And we had a particular academy member that pretty much thought he was the shit just because he was, in the military. So he always, for some reason, he had a problem with Daly. So Daly was like, "Look, I'm tired of everybody talking."
Yep.
He went up to the front and he put his name on the list. He said, "Whoever want to see me out there,
yes,
put your name on the list, and we can handle this on the field."
Yep.
All right, because he's like, "Y'all taking my kindness for a weakness." Yeah, because it was you. It was only 3 of you guys that were in your 20s coming in the academy. It was you, I'm not gonna say his last name, but
Yeah, you talking about tall, skinny.
yeah,
F.
and yeah, no, C.
C was, yeah. F was too. F was the youngest.
Yeah,
F was the youngest. He was younger than me because I was 20 and he was barely, like, he was just hitting 19, going on 20. He was the youngest in the academy. He turned out to be one of the coldest too.
Yeah.
Working Southside. But yeah, go ahead, Dre.
That's my boy. So, I thought I was gonna go against C, the other young one. And I ended up going against a Golden Glove boxer.
That's right.
And I'm like, yo, I'm a martial artist. So they're like, look, you need to keep your feet on the ground. And
Right.
so that was a good one. They said it was boring because we was technicians. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then you get to the real fights with the Goliaths. You know what I'm saying? Dislocated shoulders, busted lips, folks getting knocked out, folks cowering.
Yeah.
But nobody what how should I say? I'm gonna tell you like this, and you can tell who was from the streets coming into this field and who's been in fights before, who had confidence in their hand skills and who didn't.
Right.
And it translated when we got out of the academy and we got into fights.
Right.
And folks think that police officers look inherently, I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. If a police officer could put on that uniform, get in that car and do nothing all day but eat, he good. Or go to Quick Trip. But for some reason, everybody believes that it's all about harassment. So when it comes to training, when we got out of academy, we thought we learned everything that's possible we could learn. When we was on, then you get on FTO and you're like, I can't wait to get this guy out of my car. And then you finally get that ready to ride and you're driving by yourself. And then you look to your right and you're like, damn, I missed that dude on my right. I'm not ready for that. And before you answer those questions, I'm going to lay it like this. Hey, as you see, our academy class was very intelligent.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm telling you, C is taking it easy on y'all. You think I'm Dre dropping gems Jenkins. Get this brother started. Get this brother started.
Why is Jenkins so funny though?
That's what I call. Hey, that's what I call him. Dre is not lying, you guys. C is sharp. He's really taking it easy on y'all. Again, these are brothers I come to this to learn. And they love Dre on the channel. Dre be dropping it, man. Let's dive in these questions real quick.
Can I say something to Trash Can real quick? Because he said, respect y'all, but y'all know it's us still out here that think we would still wear that ass out respectfully. Trash Can, to be honest, man, we weren't talking about hand-to-hand combat with the citizens. I don't think we would come up here and laugh and joke about that because that's not something to kind of play around with. We were talking about amongst ourselves, and I'm pretty sure you're right. Like, obviously, just as men, we understand that there's a hierarchy. You can't beat everyone. But no, we wasn't sharing these stories to talk about us, physically doing this to a citizen. I don't think there's nothing cool about that, unless, obviously if you're defending yourself for whatever the reason is. But yeah, we can kind of get into the other thing. But he's a funny guy.
Yeah. Trash Can is my number one. He's a good support. He always come with the jokes. Guy certified comedian. He's a good dude though. I vouch for Trash Can waves, especially since the brother lost all his hair. Shit, I can't hate on the brother with the waves. You know what I mean? Let's see. We're gonna save qualified immunity for last because it's a very unique time. Oh, okay, Dre still got it, and Dre older than me, man. Listen, the job is what caused this hair loss, you guys. Stressing myself out.
No, it caused this gray.
Well, I'm not as old. At least you still got hair on the top. Right. So let's do with Miss Global first. We'll hit qualified immunity last, you guys, because this is a very interesting topic, and I want to get Dre's perspective on it, and then C's perspective before we head out. Let's hit this, and then let me get what do you think about this, C? What are your thoughts on this?
Untrained officers are not just unleashed on the streets. So, I mean, I think that's a stretch in how you're describing it. A part of the academy is field training, where you're still technically in the academy, but you're allowed to ride along with an officer for a certain amount of time. I think the point that I was personally trying to make is that at some point, there's only but so much you could do in the classroom. And obviously, you may not completely understand that because you've never been in the profession. There's only but so much you can learn from a textbook or that you can learn from a conversation. You have to see it. So at some point, within a reasonable amount of time, you have to be unleashed onto the streets because that's where the real training starts, right? Like, you know, obviously we've all seen Training Day, but that's the concept. The training starts once you actually get on the streets, right? So I don't think that in our personal experience, there was much more that the academy could have offered us. We spent 6.5 months in training. A part of that training is where we actually went to the street, for 8 weeks? Was it 8 weeks?
9 weeks. 9
Yeah.
weeks. When we came out, it was 9 weeks. We did.
No, I'm saying like the ride-alongs. How long was our ride-alongs? It was 5 weeks.
No, which one are you talking about? Oh, no, it's 5 weeks. You talking about that?
It was
5 weeks.
It was 5 weeks. It was 5
Yeah,
weeks.
we did 1 week in each precinct.
Yeah.
Right. So basically, we did 5 weeks in the academy of training with an officer. Then we did another 8 weeks once we got out. So you add that up, that's a reasonable amount of time before we're unleashed by ourselves. So again, I can't speak for any other department, any other state, but that's not the case. And hopefully that answers your question, Ms. Gloria.
On that real quick, I will say this. Just in my travels, there's one thing I wish we did do. I wish we did spend some time at the Solicitor General's office and in the District Attorney's office, because I believe that we would have been able to make a lot more solid cases and understood what exactly we needed to make a case trial ready. And you know, in my travels with the DAs, while I'm in the DA's office and when I was with the solicitor's office, one of the things I noticed was that officers didn't know what exactly to do in reference when they responded to domestic calls or what evidence they needed when they responded to like shopliftings. And a lot of that, you know, that mentality, not understanding that, yeah, it's a misdemeanor, but for these misdemeanors is a felony, you know.
Yeah, let me bring some context clarity to that too, Dre, real quick. What you're saying is right. So I guess one would argue, because Miss Globe Girl has a great question. I think as officers too, we look at where can we put more emphasis on the training that we have. All departments are not created equal. Our department was very, very unique because they understood where they were going to be sending us out to. And so they understood how vital it was for us to have that training. 6 months is a long time. And there is an addition to that. I think where the core of the problem is how the people, the candidates who are being picked to do this job are selected. I think that's where we need to focus our energy on selecting better quality candidates to be police officers. And then if we do 6 months to a year, like Dre is saying, there's a law component, and we talked about it earlier. There are some officers that are not sharp with the law. We see it with these First Amendment auditors. I love watching their videos. You guys, I'm gonna have one of those gentlemen up here as a guest on a future stream, and we're gonna talk about how they get over on officers all the time because they just don't know the law. So I think that's a great question. I have a guest here. I'm gonna pull up real quick. Seattle, the Seattle Black Veteran. I'm gonna bring you up real quick. Let me get your question real quick, brother, and then I have someone else I want to get a question in as well, for the guest or for Dre, or just in general, officer related question that you got. You're on mute, by the way. And welcome back to the channel, sir. And then we're gonna get to the rest of these questions too that you highlighted. You're muted.
Still muted. Hey Nate, I wanted to address one question that new Gross said in reference to officers in neighborhoods.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you good?
No, go ahead, my brother. Please continue.
Go ahead, Dre.
Nate, do you remember the last day of the academy when we had to pick our precincts?
Mm-hmm.
And I think what the community don't understand is that our instructors will look at your mindset and your ability to do the job and put you in the precinct that they feel you'll be most effective in. Mm-hmm. So we had some folks that went to North Precinct. North Precinct pretty much their call volume primarily dealing with jaywalkers or accidents. They didn't know how to package drugs. Some of us went to Center Precinct, South Precinct, and Tucker, where they had at the time had the majority of the crime.
Right.
You know, and we used to brag about the calls that we went on when we went to certain precincts. You know, what it is a lot of times, yeah, if you have a whole academy class full of black folks, 9 times out of 10, all those black folks aren't going to be sent to the black neighborhoods because they're ill-equipped to even handle their own people. You know, whether it's temperament, whether they're extremely aggressive, or they don't particularly know the law, or they're docile and don't know how to assert themselves when they respond on the scene.
Right.
So you have to look at personalities. You're not getting robots that come in here that have the same programming. You know, how you was raised, your home environment. A lot of folks are sheltered, you know, and then you have the white component. You have a lot of white officers that their first encounter with a black person is in the academy or in the military.
Mm.
And then a lot of times, because of their temperament and their knowledge, they're put into black neighborhoods because they have the temperament and they're not biased, so to speak.
Right.
So, you know, so you have to look at that. You know, we had an academy mate that had they came into the academy with their Juris Doctrine already. So we had intelligent folks. And like C was saying, we took a lot of tests. I think we took about 28, 30 tests.
There's a lot
We took a lot of tests. And the margin for error was very small. You failed 2 tests, you was out.
And that's the thing too, and that's the problem.
No, it was 3. You couldn't fail 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 3. But
3.
I mean, still, out of 30 or 28, I mean, it was just like, you know,
right,
SATs every day.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, you guys, and I will say this: the problem is this: we don't know how consistent this is across the board in other police departments. I know departments where they're not even nowhere near as rigorous as our department was. And even with the level of rigorous type of selection they had, you had officers that still fell on the wayside. We had a couple people from our academy that got arrested that are doing Fed time right now, or if not, just got out. So, you know, the reality is there's always more of a, y'all know, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking about who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's impossible to solve all of it, but we can put some things in play to reduce it. Let me give a special shout out to Diana. Thank you so much for this this large Cash App donation. I'm really grateful, you guys. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means so much. It lets me know that you see value in this discussion. You see value in this channel. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. I'm so grateful, you guys. Shout out to you right here, Seattle Black Veteran. You got a question for the panel? You got a question for our guest, C?
Actually, I just wanted to agree 100% what C was saying, and that is, you know, and I worked as a correction officer. I worked with the DOD as a police officer, so I didn't go through the rigorous training that you guys went through, and bless your hearts. But it is true. Once you go to and for me, and I'm talking about when I'm gonna use the word expired, it's better using the K word. While I was working in the prison, a dude jumped off the 2nd tier straight on his head, right? Jeez. Now a police officer goes and sees a scene where somebody's been, you know, deleted from the planet. You're expected to go right back to work, sucked it up and go right back to work. There's no counseling. There's nothing. And it's the bad thing too is even if you go see counseling about that, you might lose your job, lose your weapon, because they're not going to have somebody's psychological problems out there with a weapon and they know about it. And I agree with you too, Nate, is that, you know, they will give you more and more and more training and said, we did the best we could. It's on you now. Right. And that's true. Because when I first started working, even when I worked at DOD, it's like, bam, here's a weapon, here's a car, get out there. And you're like, oh, crap, you know, and you don't know that. But we up here to RCW, you don't know all that revised code, Washington, you know, to the T, and that gets you on it. And then I agree with C when he said this, too, is that when you see some things like that, like a person expired themselves, and then you go back to your job and then you get some little knucklehead, you know, you have to go because he's stealing something and he wants to act crazy. You still got that energy in you, you know, and you got to find a way to download that. And I've seen it on both sides of the police being bad, both colors, and I've seen it in a corrections facility. And people just lose it. I used to walk the street. I was hotter than fish grease. I dared somebody to say something, do something because it was on, But I just want to say I agree with that. And I've seen some arrogant police officer back in the day. I was walking through a neighborhood. A police officer pulled me over and said, "What you doing in this neighborhood?" I said, "I live here." And he's surprised because there was only 2 black families in that whole neighborhood. But he followed me all the way home. Right. Made sure that I lived in the neighborhood. And I had one where we were changing my friend's mom's tire at nighttime, and somebody called, said we were still in the car. So police showed up. They had gats pulled on. His mom came out and had to say, "Hey, these are my kids." But I just want to say that I agree with C in your panel, Dre, too, is that, people, you got to understand, and the police officers, I pray for you, because right now in Tacoma, Washington, the city just settled a $4 million lawsuit. The officers are handling the kid, and the kid expired within the officer's possession. So now these 2 officers, and it's, when you got weight hanging over your head like that, man, you can't sleep. That's stress, and now they're wondering, are they going to go to jail and how long they're going to go to jail? Right. So, having that on there. But I just want to say that thanks for having me. Your beautiful panel always, man. And you always do a good job out here, Nate. And thank you, gentlemen. Much love and respect to you all. And I just want to say that. And hey, may peace always be with you.
Thank you. Appreciate you saying that.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate that.
All righty.
All right. I love it. Got another brother real quick. All right. Muslim Jedi. I like that name. That's dope. We'll bring you up, brother. He has a great question.
Nate, can I say something to daughter of Yah really quick? So she's saying, so police officers don't get debriefing counseling. Yes, police officers do. Obviously, that would vary based on the department. But what we were specifically referring to are the day-to-day activities that wouldn't be deemed as something worthy of debriefing counseling. A person died, a child ejected in a vehicle accident, people's constant domestic disputes. These things weigh on you mentally heavily, right? You see families warring every day. You see children being hurt. You see people dying from natural causes. You're a human being, so it does have an effect. And for something like that, no, there's not going to be any debriefing counseling. If you're involved in a shooting, there might be. There's going to be a psychological evaluation. But what we're saying is that the job in general, right, should require some sort of counseling quarterly, right? Maybe bi-yearly, some sort of therapy to kind of talk you through what you go through on a daily basis. Because as an officer, it becomes normal. Death becomes normal, right? Seeing children being hurt, for me, it never got easy. It always was a hard thing to deal with. But I can't imagine a detective who that's their job to solely deal with those cases. At some point, you just get numb to it, right? So exactly, there you go, Dre, right? So no, I think I just wanted to address that. So yes, there is debriefing counseling, but it's mostly for shootings. And you guys can correct me. Is there anything else where it's like 100% you have to get some sort of counseling or psychological evaluation?
Only when you're involved in a, let's say, mass shooting, you have to be fit for duty. Normally, if you're involved in a shooting, after you do your walkthrough, you have to be fit for duty. So you get a psych eval. See, I dealt with. Remember, I was a homicide. I dealt with gangs, and now now I deal with domestic violence, sexual assaults. So I deal with, domestic related murders, rapes, and all that all day. Okay. So I'm in therapy because when you see that stuff, it affects you. So remember, we used to have choir rehearsal. That's how we used to, that's how we got over our stuff. We'll meet at the end of the watch, saying after we get our J2 check, and then we'll go out there and talk about our cause. We did it ourselves because it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't deemed important enough to require therapy. You have to take that initiative yourself. You have to recognize that something that you went on bothers you. We couldn't go to our supervisor and say, "Hey, that call bothered me. Oh, you'll be all right." You had to take it upon yourself to get the help you need, because a human body and a human brain is not designed to deal with what we deal with. Remember, you respond to a child death, you'll write the report on that, and then you'll go to an armed robbery in progress where a person's been shot. There's no time for you to decompress and regroup. is boom, boom. As we say, it's balls to the wall. You don't have time for that. And a lot of times, if you don't recognize the change in your behavior and your change in the mentality and how these things are bothering you, like you get in such situations, you got the shakes, you can't sleep, you're finding, you're drinking. These are things that you have to recognize within yourself. So you have to take it upon yourself. It's the individual. It's kind of like the training. You're deficient in this area. You need to take it upon yourself to get this training. You're not feeling right, because remember, when we got out of the academy, we was happy to go to work every day, and then we were on that peak. We was, what I'm saying, remember they said we was full of piss and vinegar, right? And then you plateau, and then you start saying there has to be a better way. And then you fall off the cliff. You know what I'm saying? That's the cycle.
Yeah,
So you have to
100%.
recognize these changes in you.
Hold on before you
Go
dive
ahead. I'm
into
sorry,
it.
Muslim Jizza.
No, I want to ask if it's okay to talk about. Remember, you had shared with me the thing about the homicide thing, and the sleep. If you want to share with that before we dive in there, I want to get Muslim Jedi to give his question to the panel. And before we dive into that question too, I want everybody to recognize what these two gentlemen are saying about what we actually go through. One of the reasons why I left my first department was because I was having a hard time dealing with all the deaths and all the violence you guys had got to me. And so after 7 years, I ended up leaving, trying to find a peaceful way, and so we'll have to talk about that another time when we talk about mental health. But you guys have to recognize that the leading cause of death amongst officers is suicide, and a lot of people don't talk about that. But that is the leading cause of death for law enforcement. Is we also know the domestic violence that comes out of law enforcement homes as well. That's a problem too. So that's something that we are going to talk on. Muslim Jedi, thank you so much for signing up, brother. It's the first time I've seen you on the channel. So welcome coming up on the stream. What are your thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. What are your thoughts? Do you have any questions for our guest, C, or you have a question for Dre or myself?
Dude, just a couple of thoughts on my background, and then I'll lead into the question I propose about the youth engagement with police officers and departments. So with me, out of high school, enlisted in the Marine Corps Reserves, ended up playing some college ball, went to school for IT, got almost 20 years working in IT in various fields. Right now, I'm working to finish my cybersecurity degree so I can go to law school. In 2012, I attempted to become a police officer here locally. Passed the test. It was kind of I think the age limit was 32. It was the last test before my 33rd birthday. So I was like, man, let me go take it. And I did well on it. And I ended up getting in a car accident and getting a spine fusion. So I never completed the physical fitness portion of that. But one thing that I've been focused on intently over the past few years is engaging these kids and providing them an alternative to what we see on the streets. And in my experience, they want to be pushed, they want to be challenged. And I was introduced to you last night. I tuned in to check into Mr. White and that whole engagement. And then once the other gentleman chimed in, it kind of, derailed the whole focus. But I was hoping to learn from yourself and the other gentleman on the panel about how do we move the needle forward, because with me, I have a certain level of urgency that I don't think is matched by a lot of our community members.
Yes.
So for me, it's what can we do now, which I have a solution. So coding and trading, that's I stand behind that 100%. As someone who's been in IT, you don't need a degree. You can get you a certificate and make more money than some people with college degrees. So I support that wholeheartedly. But the other component to that is, okay, you get this great paying job. How long are you going to keep it? Are you going to be on time? Are you going to have a positive attitude? All these other mitigating factors that aren't addressed normally. And that's where this program comes in, because it's, okay, let's talk about discipline. Let's talk about self-control. Let's talk about your motivations. Talk about personal responsibility. And let's have some fun while we're doing it. And when I initially started this program, the majority, it's all non-paid volunteers, but it's prior military and cops. So cops, that's why I got the term cops and kids. So it seems cops get it. I don't want to go too far off on the tangent, but I've been arrested twice in my life, and once was for engaging an for behavior I thought was inappropriate with some children I was mentoring. Didn't have a facility just like now, so we were on the street. There was some side arguments, a whole gang activity, and my kids got swooped up in that. And I was explaining to the officer, these kids are not a part of that. I understand you got a job to do. And then it immediately turned to me that I was the problem. I needed to go into the house, which I refused. I just stepped onto my property, and then he ended up arresting me. But
it got you what, for obstruction or something? Or
exactly.
Obstruction.
Yep. Yep. And it got dismissed, and the judge kind of scolded me, like, because I told him, like, I'm not on punishment. You can't send me in the house. And the judge was like, you could have handled that better, which, and the second time was the other component to my channel, which is father's rights. And we talk about how mama's boys are turning into shooters is because fathers are not in the home and they don't have that guidance and structure. And it's cool that I'm able to reach a few kids here and there, but we need responsible men in the home. And part of the issue is the false allegations against men. That was the second time I was arrested. And I'm explaining to the officer while I'm being booked and detained. I'm like, you got the wrong. I'm making this job easy. Like, okay, this is going to happen, so I'm going to apply. Let's get through this. But just to let you know what I'm trying to do, and I explained my whole youth program and all that, and he was just like floored. I'm like, I'm trying to make your job safe, but you have to deal with this nonsense, which pulls you. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say you brought up a couple interesting things, and if anybody wants to chime in, I'll let C jump on it first. Before you leave, though, I definitely want you to send me your email because I think it's worth having a conversation separate and just really discussing that. Because I would also like to hear your thoughts on how officers can improve on their communication with people from the community. Right, that communication is definitely key. And communication and how you communicate with someone is also a form and a show of respect. I'm a firm believer that police officers, contrary to what anybody believes, I believe every officer should earn the respect of the person they're talking to and not the other way around, right? And so at the end of the day, respect is mutual, and we can't deny that. But I think because officers have power, and there's we're held at a higher standard, we should be making sure that our customer service skills are beyond, right? If your customer service skills don't match and mimic Chick-fil-A's, then you're doing it wrong all across the board. We all know they got some amazing customer service skills. C, do you want to address anything with that, or just kind of his experience overall?
In terms of the arrest, I was confused. At which particular part?
Okay. Go ahead.
No, it was more the youth engagement. The rest was just kind of an aside. Yeah, it was more.
Oh, like as far as cops engaging with the youth.
Correct. Yes.
And having better relationships, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Because we're talking about changing the culture. I think it would start with the youth and having this dialogue.
Okay, that's what's up.
Yeah, I think that can help. I think that can help. For a while, I was assigned as a truancy officer, so I had to go work at the schools and kind of patrol the neighborhoods to make sure kids were in schools. And a lot of the time, parents and a lot of the teachers on the staff would ask, like, hey, do you want to mentor this kid? Can you spend an hour with this person today? And their way of going about it was very, I didn't think it would change much, right? Like how they were trying to do it, they wanted us to spend an hour with one kid, have a conversation. And I just understood that, like, listen, Jay-Z said it best in his song, and he said, like, life starts when the church ends, right? You can go to church, you can be filled with the Spirit, you can hear all the good word of what the pastor has to say, but when you leave that church and you got to walk by the corner where all the guys hanging out, that's when life really starts. So I just feel like absolutely it would help the communities if cops and kids could get together more. The problem that we often run into is just the time to have any significant in my opinion, any significant results. I think that you have to spend time, right? So there will have to be departments who have the manpower to allow officers to spend time with these kids, to truly, gain their trust and to foster a relationship. Because outside of that, right? And I think that anybody that's a parent would know, right? You can raise your kids, but you're also dealing with, the influence they're getting from school. You're dealing with the influence they're getting from TV. So there's so much influences that people get about the police and their perception, that it would work. It just needs, you would need the right amount of time. And I think that's where the struggle would be. How are we going to get the time for these officers to do that instead of being on the street? And honestly, maybe that's something that, you know, I know a lot of counties have school resource officers. Maybe that's something for that type of police department and not the actual police department. I don't know, Dre, Nate, you know, what do you think? Like maybe SRO or somebody like that would be more, you know, better for them to kind of handle that type of relationship.
Dre, what are your thoughts?
SRO they're put in a bad situation.
Yeah, they are.
Because they are law enforcement officers, but at the end of the day, they work for the schools and they have to abide by the schools. Because many times, remember, we've had to walk up in the schools, try to take a student, and the principal, like, you can't arrest, you're going to have to wait for him to be dismissed. You can't pull him out of school, you know, and we end up having to arrest the principal for obstruction. So what it is, you know, like our old department have PAO. They just got an award from the attorney, you know, from the attorney general. Well, the federal from for their works. So you have, you know, the police athletic league, but the problem is because the rising crime, a lot of departments can't spare the officers,
right?
You know, because it's kind of hard for you to sit up there and play basketball in the neighborhood and mentor these kids, and then every 5 minutes you get a call. As soon as you get out your car to even say hello, you got to get back in your car to answer a call. So you're not really getting that face time and that quality time with the youth, you know. It works in a rural area where the call volume is like, you probably get like 3 calls every hour when you can do that. But manpower issues, you know, every police department across the United States are fishing out of the same pond. They're contacting they just had on the news the other day here in Atlanta that Chief Shields, who used to be the Atlanta police officer chief, who's now in Louisville, Kentucky, has a billboard recruiting officers to come out there to Louisville.
Yeah, I thought that was.
You know, Atlanta is struggling for officers. Gwinnett County is struggling for officers. DeKalb County is struggling for officers. Clayton County is struggling. Nobody's getting into the field. I remember when we applied, they had like 120 people, you know, on a Friday doing an obstacle course and a physical agility test. They're lucky now to have 12 to 15. Lucky. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to look at it. It's not that we don't want to do it.
Right.
It's just fiscally impossible right now with in light of manpower issues. You have officers that can't get a day off because it's always manpower.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's true.
So I think the community has to take that issue on. The community has to step up. Like this can't just be, you know, like, you know, we know the age-old saying, it takes a village. We need some good men from the community to step up and to spend time. And I agree. I think the police need to do it as well. I think it's important. I always just think things from a practicality standpoint. Like how do we actually get this accomplished? How do we actually find the time to actually, you know, foster, like I said, some sort of trust with these kids? You know, an hour once a week is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. They're dealing with too much. So
I agree. I agree with that. I think this might be a good way to look at too, you know, some of our officers that are retired. And, you know, this would be a good way for some nonprofit organizations to step up and say, hey, we can fund these events, because here in my position, I had to medically retire. As you guys know my story, Muslim Jedi, I'm not sure if you know my story, but I had to medically retire in this profession. And so I decided to use this knowledge that I gained over these 13 years, just overall, just my personal experience in this profession, and say, how can I still be of benefit? How can I still be of service despite me not physically still working in this profession? And I decided to start my own nonprofit, but that nonprofit is for police officers in repairing the relationship, along with also this YouTube channel to help bring insight, right? To bring transparency, to really have these conversations that we're having now, so that someone has a police representation from the Black community who's going to be legit, right? Not like some of these yahoos on YouTube, right? We know who they are. Don't need to mention their names. And the whole idea is like, we can have this conversation so we can talk about solutions, but it coming from a practical standpoint, because you get to funnel your ideas through people who actually have done the job, and they say, hold on, that's not realistic, or that's not practical, or hey, this is very practical. I think that bringing on officers who are retired, they still have the same wisdom, they still have the same understanding, but you also want to vet them to make sure they have the personality to be able to do that job, because there are officers, we come in all different types of makeups, right? And we all have a different mindset. I'm a very passionate person. I love helping people. These gentlemen you see here on the panel as well, they are very passionate and they like serving and like helping. And so that's more important than just having any old everyday officer to do it. We don't need the ones in the uniform. We need the ones who have the heart and truly want to see the change. And so it's very possible. I don't want you to think it's not possible. It's very possible. You just have to get the right ones. And then we have to have the right strategy. And then from there, replicate it. And at the end of the day, like C said, the most important thing is having the community stand up, because a lot of these things and our biggest issue with crime, the absent fathers, are coming from the lack of fathers not doing their part, the mothers not doing their part. And at the end of the day, we have to look at it and call it as it is. A lot of the dysfunction comes from the broken home. You know, the relationship with the police come from these broken homes. People not educating our own children how to interact with law enforcement properly. We have unruly kids that end up having negative interactions with the police. We have music that talks about the assassination of police officers, you know, the mistreatment of officers, the mistreatment of other people in our community. So we're attacked on so many different ways, unfortunately. And I love your question. I think it's an amazing question. And the whole idea, and I'm very solution oriented, which is why I started this channel, which is why it's important that I bring up people that I know have done the job, people that I can vouch for specifically, so we can have these conversations today. And so I think that discussion deserves its own show. You know, me and you get together and let's talk about just raw solutions for our kids. I encourage you to come on my live tomorrow, because I'll be talking about the power of Black fathers, the power of Black families, and the outcomes of not having those fathers present. And for those who don't know, you're talking about a 70-80% increase in child suicide, child behavior issues, child educational problems. We're talking about poverty rates without fathers. And so the impact of not having a father that's active is a big issue. And so tomorrow that will be streaming. It's going to be a good topic. So Muslim Jedi, I appreciate you so much for coming up. Do you have any final words you want to give to these gentlemen up here?
No, just thank you all for your service. I appreciate your insight and taking the time to answer my question.
Yes, sir. Hit me up, drop your email, and then let's stay in contact. All right.
All right. Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, all right.
Great. Let's dive into
the chat, Nate. What's going on in the chat? What's going on in the chat, Nate?
Call them out. See, call them out.
I saw a comment in here. Jody, Nathan, can we pretend we're married?
Oh,
what's your question? How you feel about that, Nate?
Yo, hey, listen, tell her, hey, my boy Trash Can said, cam up. You got to cam up now. We can't, listen, it's hard being out here.
You definitely got to cam up, because you got a unisex name. You got to cam up. Jody, we all seen Baby Boy. When I think of Jody, that's what I think of. So, Jody, we need to see,
No, Jody, he's not. So come on, cam up.
Cam up, Jody. Cam up.
Yo, you see me and Trash Can on the same page right now.
Facts. Y'all and Trash Can made up. Proposal. Let me first remind you of a movie character and Baby Boy. Shit, the name. Facts.
Hey, daughter of Yah had a great comment. She was like, she can't imagine being a spouse of an officer. Now, and I'm gonna tell you, all right, as the oldest statesman here,
right,
it puts a lot of stress on your family.
That's a good question.
I was leaving the house when my daughter was asleep and coming home when my daughter was asleep. When my daughter was born, I was a detective. So a lot of that gets put on the family. And, at the time I was married, and it put a lot of pressure on my wife that she had to take care of everything. And when I came home, I was tired. I was mentally drained. So I just sat on my ass because I needed to collect my thoughts from what I did for that day. And it causes a lot of resentment because you don't know when your husband or your wife leaves the house, will they be ever coming back? You don't know. And then you hang out with, their friends who are officers and hear all these stories of stuff that they did. And it's bothersome to think that every day your spouse is in danger, you know. And unfortunately, a lot of times we joke about it and, we make light of it, but it's real.
Right.
And for me, it got harder when I became a detective, when I was leaving the house and nobody even knew I left the house. 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm out on a scene. And I'm coming home where everybody's getting up like, I didn't even know you left. Like, yeah. Or I'll leave the house at 3 o'clock in the morning and don't come back home till about 1 o'clock in the morning the next day. That's how it is. And you have to be super supportive and you have to be super strong. I have, celebrity friends that are pro athletes, and I tell them, I say, you're really no different from me. I say, you bounce from city to city with new teams, new contracts, and sometimes your family have to pick up. I said, well, it's different for us. We're never around. We're absentee parents because we put our community before we put our own family sometimes, and you don't understand the sacrifices. I used to come home and say, damn, I get it at work and I'm getting that home too. And like, where's the peace?
Right.
So you have to understand that we're human. I mean, shoot, we'll finally get a chance to eat. Calls, die down, and somebody like, well, what you doing in here? Eating lunch? Well, you need to be out in the streets. Well, I just came from the streets. Well, I pay your salary. My tax money pay your salary. So I said, well, I need a raise. I said, matter of fact, since you pay my salary, why don't you pay my food? Matter of
Facts.
fact, you know what? I tell you what, I'll buy your lunch. Come on. How many times have you guys gone and sit down and get something to eat, and as soon as you take that first bite, you get a call, and it's not like a alarm. It's a in progress call. So you gotta either scarf your food or just dump it and go. So it's just, you have to understand. We're not asking for any pity. We're not asking for any sympathy. We're just letting you know that this is a job that we embraced. And we came out different. We're not the same people we were coming in. We come out with a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding, and what Nate is trying to do is share with you what is exactly going on. He's trying to dispel any of the media biases, any of the the community activist biases. He's laying it down, and you guys have to understand that we're coming from a genuine place. We're just trying to educate you and pull the veil behind the scenes so you see exactly what's going on.
Whew, well said. See, you want to
heavy.
That is heavy. I want to touch on something real quick because I haven't shared this with anybody yet. But for the sake of the conversation, Dre brought up kids. You guys, I don't have any children yet, and I want kids. I want a whole football field of children. To be honest with you, I've always imagined myself having about 4 or 5 of them little guys, right? And after my accident, you're talking, since I've been doing this job, I've had a couple near-death experiences, or no better, I would say I've had a couple people try to take my life in this job. I fought for my life a few times. My last accident, the incident that led me to retire, you guys, was probably the most scariest situation I've been in. It was the only situation I've ever been in where I felt like I didn't have any control. Any other situation, I knew I could fight better, run better, outbox, outkick, outbite, whatever was needed to get the job done, whatever was needed to survive. I did that. And I will say this last situation I was into 2 years ago, put me in a position where I felt like I had no control over the direction of my life, that my entire life was in the hand of somebody else. And I almost died behind it. And you guys, when I came out of that situation, there were a couple things I was battling with. The idea that if I would have lost my life in that moment, I didn't have any children. I didn't have anybody I can pass a legacy to, that really tore me up on the inside. It was very difficult to swallow that reality. Then I started to battle with the idea, what if I did have kids and I died in that moment? Then I would have left my children without a father, you know? And so then I started to grapple this whole idea of, would it have been better to not have children or to have children? You know, and I never could answer that question, but you know, that was something that I had to battle in that moment, you know, and I'm blessed to still be here. I'm blessed to still be alive. And you know, my passion for wanting to fix this problem the best I can, or provide something, plant a seed of change, even if I'm not the one that can usher it in. The idea is that at one day, at some point, people are going to watch this video, they're going to watch other videos that I've made, and then to see that my love is true and it's genuine. And then at the end of the day, I still want to do the best I can, because I really believed in what I was doing when I put that uniform on. And so, you know, I appreciate Dre for bringing that up. It just brought back that memory that I had, you know, trying to recover in reference to the idea. You have men and women who do this job and they leave every single day. They have a family too. We don't want to lose our life behind doing our job, whether we're good at it or we're not that good at it. We don't sign up to be killed. That's not what we want. We don't desire that. What we do desire is to help and save lives and help and serve people. You know, we're not out here to try to get our life taken, nor do we want to take lives of others, you guys. And that's a misconception, you know. And so, you know, this is just real talk. You know, the title of this video, Can Officers Keep It Real? Yes, that's what we're doing. We're being real. We're being transparent. And so, you know, I've been in a shooting. It wasn't fun. It was scary. I didn't understand. I was afraid until after it was over with, you know. And, you know, what Dre said before is like, we have to go and get counseling. Yeah, you got to get counseling after that. You have to be a very strong individual to do this job. Some people are not as strong as others. You know, everybody doesn't have the same mental fortitude to do this profession. You know, we take that for granted. Depression is real. What we go through is real. And it does take a strong person to get yourself out of it, with the help and support of your community, your loved ones, you know, and even your faith, you know. So I just want everybody to let that sink in. We are humans at the end of the day. You know, we just have a difficult job. C, what are anything you want to add to that?
To what specifically?
Anything. If you just wanted to chime in before we, I'm about to start tearing up. I'm gonna switch. So we got to get back in the comment section. But if you don't have anything to add, then cool. We'll move forward. You mute.
Okay, my fault. Yeah. No, I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, obviously, I've had to deal with similar things with family being concerned, but not to the extent of you guys. I've never been involved in an accident or an incident like you, Nate. So nah, you guys kind of got that.
So we got that. Any
Yeah,
fear?
I got that. Huh?
Any fear? What are your thoughts on the fear that you've experienced, just in general?
I mean, yeah, you get scared a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, almost on a daily basis, depending on the call that you get. You know, I mean, I can remember getting calls of like, you know, the radio operator saying that there was 50 shots fired in an apartment complex. You see everybody running out, but you know, you got to run in.
Right.
And it's stressful. But at the end of the day, I mean, you kind of cope with the idea a long time ago that this is what you have to do. At least with me personally, I've obviously heard of stories of officers in our own department.
Right.
You know, certain officers that got involved in situations and they just got frantic and they ran.
Yep.
But I just always felt like, you know, this is part of it. I'm a human being. I'm scared, but you know, I still got to deal with whatever's in front of me. So thankfully, I've never been in anything too bad. I've been in a lot of calls where there were shots fired. I've never personally been shot at. So my experience, the worst that has been is you know, fights, you know, just typical stuff like that. So thank God, you know, I've never been involved in anything like that. I've always felt like, you know, I was kind of spared from dealing with anything, you know. Now I'm in kind of a cush position where I don't have to deal with the torment of the street.
Yeah.
So, you know, that part is behind me. But I mean, I've had some close calls. I mean, I know there was an officer that I worked with that he had been involved in a lot of shootings. So they kind of put him like in a nice little cushy area. And I remember one day I called out sick. I just didn't want to go to work. I think my friends like, hey, we hanging out. We going to do this. I'm like, man, I need a stress day. So I just called out sick, and I was working in a bad neighborhood. So they put him in my territory, the area that I had to cover. And of course, on that day, he got a call after being on shift like an hour of a violent domestic call, and he had to shoot and kill somebody. And I always said, like, damn, that would have been my call. That would have been my job to handle that. And you know, that's just the nature of the job. You have some officers that have been in this job for 30 years, never been involved in a fight or a shooting.
Yes.
You got some officers that have been in it for 5 and they've been involved in 3 shootings.
Yep.
So it's all the luck of the draw and what you get. I mean, you guys covered that pretty good. So
No.
You remember they said working at South Precinct is like dog years. For every 1 year, it's like 7, because you can, you know, our homicide unit used to pull folks from East Precinct and South Precinct because there was more experience, because they would handle every single call you could possibly think of in one night, where other precincts would probably have it in a week. So it's
right.
you have to you have to understand, you know, I love what I do. I'm glad I went through. I've been shot at. I had a fight dude. I've had folks stabbed in front of me. I responded to a rape in progress and actually kicked in the door to ask somebody to actually see somebody being raped. These are things that, you know, were relatively new to me. You hear the stories and you see it happen. Now, what I do, I investigate the stuff because of the knowledge and what I've dealt with, and because I have a handle of you know, what to look for. You know, I think it made me a better detective. And I think you asked me a question earlier about homicide. I used to think I was a great detective because every time I went to sleep, I used to see my crime scenes in my sleep, like perfectly. And then I would go back and look at the pictures and see stuff that weren't there. And then I realized, then it wasn't until later on I realized that that's not healthy. I'm not getting good sleep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to understand that it's a great profession, but you have to have some outlets. I cook, I fish, I work out, I do martial
Drake
arts.
can cook, y'all. He throw down. He sending me photos on Instagram. This boy is a beast in the kitchen.
You
Sure,
gotta have an outlet.
a lot.
Yeah, my sister used to tell me, make sure your best friends aren't police officers.
Right.
You have to have friends outside of your profession, because they can trigger recurrent trauma, stuff that you thought you forget. Remember, we used to call them war stories. We'll sit down there at the table and tell war stories, not understanding that that'll trigger something in somebody else. So, have an outlet. And I tell you that for everybody. You don't have to be a police officer to have an outlet. Whether you walk, run, do something.
Facts. No, absolutely. Absolutely. You guys want to know, I paint, and I'm an artist. I paint, I design, and I do martial arts. Those are my outlets, and I eat video games and anime as well. For those
Anime.
anime.
Gotta love anime.
See, what are your outlets, brother? What are your outlets?
It sounds like y'all giving out y'all damn profile to be on the dating site. What else you
I'm
like?
a Sagittarius. I like long
Right.
walks in the park.
I'm a Pisces. I'm a Pisces, ladies. Christian. I'm a Christian, but I sin often, unfortunately. But I repent just as much.
Wow.
Hey, hey guys, this is exactly how he acted in the academy, though. But he's a comedian, so don't let him fool you. See, he's a comedian too. Hey, I think this segues into this conversation, and I want to pull up these 2 last questions. See, how you good on time, brother? You good for like a couple?
Yeah, I got a couple more minutes.
All right, bet. Real quick, I think Trash Can Waves said, and Trash Can Waves, thank you for the support, brother. I appreciate this. He said, how do they train officers in the academy to lay their lives down for people they don't know or risk death to pull out people out of buildings like 9/11? That's a very good question. I think C touched on that. Just talking about it's our duty. You know, when something is your duty, you know, it just is what it is. We are trained because, again, you guys, you have to love it. You got to want to see people happy. You got to want to see people in a good position. I've always had a strong justice demeanor, you know, very pro justice. I'm very pro equitable treatment. And I don't know, man. I can't really speak to it. It's like something internal. It's hard to explain, but you just want to see good in the world. And if you have the ability to make it possible, then you stand up and you do it. I tell people all the time that it takes a lot of bravery to put this uniform on, but it takes courage to do the job. And when you feel it, it feels more like a calling more than anything. When none of us desire to be cops up here. We kind of just fell into it. C was telling you how he got into this profession, what made him want to become a cop. He just kind of fell into it. But you guys, he's an amazing officer. Dre is an amazing officer. And at the end of the day, it's almost like it was a calling that we didn't ask for, but we accepted it. And again, bravery is one thing and courage is another. And these brothers served our community with distinction. They continue to serve in different capacities. And as you can see, we are still serving differently. And though we're not jumping down the communities and beating down the streets, you guys, we are still present doing different things. And you see myself thrown from a car, and here I am back up, still trying to serve in some capacity. It's a calling, you guys. It's a calling. Some are called, some were never called, but they still try to do the job, right? And that's the difference. That is a great question. Let me pull up another one. I think I saw another one. Let's see. Chemo C, that's the brother right there. Thank you so much, Chemo, for this super chat. He said on the lighter note, right? Stuff was getting heavy. Do officers watch cop shows? There are so many on TV. Why not? Any favorites?
First 48.
First 48, yeah. We were on First 48. See, what's up? You don't watch them?
Nah, man. I mean, it's just like, to me, it's like overkill. Like when I get away, I just try to get away. Now, have I seen them? Of course. I've seen episodes of the First 48. I've seen like certain movies. I think I mean, I love Bad Boys, if that count, like Martin and Will, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously now that's fake. It's nothing real about Bad Boys, but I'm just trying to make light of what he's saying, but I really don't. The best the best cop film I've ever seen, in my opinion.
End of Watch.
End of Watch. What'd you say, C?
You're muted.
Oh, you're mute. I think your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh, because your earpiece went out? I think the earpiece went out.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. So the best film I've ever seen was End of Watch.
Yep.
And that was the realest cop movie ever created. I don't think there'll ever be another one as good as that. That was the realest. It was realer than Training Day.
Yes.
It was just a real movie, from the banter between the officers, from the experience, how they saw the community, how the community saw them. So if you haven't seen that movie, please take the time to look it up. It's called End of Watch. It was a very, very good movie. And I'm pretty sure most people are gonna cry at the end of the movie.
I did.
I mean, watch it.
Not the men. I know a lot of the men. No.
My bad.
I can't watch it. I watched it because the most beautiful thing in that movie and the most horrifying thing in that movie.
Don't tell it though. Don't tell it for those who ain't seen it.
Yeah, no,
right.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about the incident, but you know what I'm talking about. The sea of blue. That's what I'm talking about. But for them, it's different.
Right.
All right. and that's nah.
I love anime, bro. I love anime.
Yeah, same here. We were just talking about anime the other shit today.
Yeah, I went to the movies to catch an anime movie out, that Jujutsu Kaisen, y'all. But
yeah, I'm seeing that side.
I digress.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. See, End of Watch is by far the best, because out of all the police movies that ever been, this is the only movie they actually do paperwork.
Never thought about that. Good point.
Yeah, they're actually logging in evidence and showing how to log in evidence and actually doing a report.
Good point. Jody, I know you was feeling good earlier. You were throwing around the little marriage proposals. I do not have no damn Walmart earpiece, okay? I got the Beats, the Apple Beats headset. My battery is low. We've been talking for a long time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, come on. Let me live. This one is about to die too, so you know.
Right. We had this brother up so long. Yo, C, man, I appreciate you. I'm gonna swim through here real quick. I don't wanna keep y'all up too much longer. Yeah, end of watch, you guys. You have to watch it. It brought me to tears. I'm not gonna lie, it gave me anxiety. Because officers know when you know, and you've done the job. That is the most accurate movie I've ever seen. I always watch cops. I also watch First Amendment auditors. I enjoy the good laugh. I learned a lot from cops, to be honest. I built a lot of my tactics and strategies off of what officers did wrong. That's how I use and continue to train myself. My brother thought I was corny for watching it. He would always say that, "Oh, you're such a cornball. How you a cop watching cops?" You know. And he would say the same thing C would say. He's like, "Man, you need a break from that. That's all you do." You guys, I've always tried to perfect myself and do better each and every time. You know, that's just kind of how I got down. But you know, I was a little corny with it sometimes. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I used to watch Body Cam and First 48. And at the time, Joe Kidna. But I used to remember when we was academy, it's like, if you want to learn how not to police, watch Cops.
That's right. That's what our instructor said.
So I would watch him. You know, I wouldn't keep it on speed. You know, watch it all the time, but I would just watch it just to get an understanding, and then I would watch First 48 because I was on like 3 episodes of it when they were with us. So I gotta have a following, so I watch it, and I watch Night Watch. So
Night Watch is good. What are your thoughts on this, C? We're gonna get you one more of these questions, real quick, C, and then I want to tackle the qualified immunity before you bounce. Get your thoughts on it. What did y'all think about American Skin? And shout out to Pretty Ugly Truth. She is actually the sponsor of my amazing sign back there for my birthday. So, Pretty Ugly Truth, thank you so much for that. You know, I'm super grateful. And I thought that was a beautiful gesture, and it is a dope sign. It's a dope sign. American Skin with Nate Parker. C, what are your thoughts on that? Did you see American Skin?
I haven't. I know it's I think
movie.
It's an Amazon. It's an Amazon or Hulu movie.
Yeah.
To be honest, during the time when it came out, like I feel like I was just overwhelmed with everything, like just what was going on in society, and I'm like, I can't. It's kind of like, especially as Black people, like we understand, like when we hear about the new Slave movie, you know, 12 Years a Slave, and it's just like, yo, I can't do this anymore. Like it's just too much. So that came out right after like a lot of the police shootings and stuff, and I was just, to be honest, I was tired of dealing with the emotional stress of hearing about the story. So I couldn't sit there and watch a movie because I felt like we've seen the movie. You know, the past 10 years, you know, of all of the people that have been killed, all of the stories. So it was just like I couldn't watch the movie. But I did hear good things about it.
Yeah, I have to second that. A lot of people ask me, "Hey, did you watch this person, you know, whatever shot this or whatever shot that, or 13 this on Netflix and things like that?" I usually, guys, I don't watch them because it is stressful. And it's not to say that it's not important information, you guys, but you have to remember we actually live this stuff. We do it. We investigate these things all the time. And when we talk about mental health, this is a part of it. I don't like watching slave movies either. I don't like watching things that paint Black people in a light of weakness. I don't like to marinate on the past. I like to marinate. I would love to see movies of us doing amazing things in the future, even if we have to act it out. You know, what does the Black community look like when we're all on the same accord, right? When we bring the violence down, we bring the poverty down, we bring the unity up. You know, we talk about Black-owned businesses. What does that look like? Make a movie about that, right? Make a movie about us championing these causes and bringing us together and doing great things. You know, so that's the type of movies we need to focus on. We always like to dive into the past as if we don't know the story. You know, and unfortunately, some people feel like if you're not talking about the past trauma, then you're not acknowledging it. And I'm like, damn, we've already beat it to oblivion. We know what happened, right? Let's talk about the future. And I think people are afraid to dive into the future. They can't imagine it. You know, they can't imagine it. Shout out again to Pretty Ugly Truth. I can't wait to get her up on the channel because she's into that counseling stuff. So we need that. We need more counselors to speak out against the things that they see, because as officers, we can only give one perspective. I know you want to dive on this real quick, C. before you bounce. This is from New Growth. He's one of my #1 competitors and challengers on my channel. Good brother, though. Are most officers loyal more to the... I love this. I think it's a great question. What are your thoughts, C?
I mean, I think it's obvious. Officers are loyal to the department. That's where they get their paycheck. That's where they get discipline. That's where they can lose, their security for their family. So the loyalty is there, right? So in a positive sense, right, they're going to stick to their department policy and they're going to stick to what the law says. That's where a lot of times you might say, oh, this officer's an asshole. He didn't give me no break, but then, what the part that people don't see, right, is when their supervisors go back and watch their body cam and they see, oh, you stopped this person for doing 90 miles an hour and you didn't write them a citation. Now, now you get written up, then you got to deal with some sort of written counseling, or maybe you got to take a day in the street, right? You got to get suspended. So there's a lot of sides of the coin that people that don't see. Most officers are loyal to the department. And I think that we all can understand why they would be. There can't be any loyalty to people because you can give a person a warning. And this has happened. I've heard of stories this.
Yep.
You can pull someone over, give them a warning on a ticket, and they'll go to the department and complain on you. Then you get written up. And you have to deal with that stress from your supervisors. Yep. So the expectation that that the officers are gonna be loyal to the community, just in the general sense of how you ask the question, I don't think that that's gonna be the case. If officers are gonna be loyal to protecting your rights and enforcing the law, I think that's obviously the best that you can ask for. Right? Everybody wants the law to be enforced. Everybody wants to live in a safe community, but we don't want it enforced against us. Right? That's just the truth, right? Myself included. I don't want to get a stop sign ticket, right? But if I get pulled over for running the stop sign, right, I got to deal with it. That's the reality. So,
whew. Yikes. That is a mouthful. Listen, Dre, give me 1 second. I'm going to bring you down. So I want C to give his final words. And I'm gonna bring you back up.
Okay.
Dre, 1 second. All right. See, real quick. First of all, that was very true. Do you want to tackle this immunity question?
What was it? I forgot.
He said, "Can we discuss immunity policies for cops?" Or that's too broad. But a lot of people have an issue with qualified immunity, just in general. Are you for it, against it, or what would you say the pros and the cons are? If you want to,
I'm trying to think. I mean, obviously, I'm an officer, so I have to be for it because it protects me, right?
Correct.
It protects me that if I am acting in good faith and something goes awry, that there has to be some sort of protection. Who on earth would sign up for the job? Like, what people are asking of people is to be perfect. Right? And we don't need to say it, but I have to say it, right? Human beings aren't perfect. So there has to be some sort of system in place that protects an officer who is acting in good faith, right? If I'm responding to a call, and I'm going to give a real simple example, but if I'm responding to a call, right, and they say that there's some sort of child that's in danger in the house, right? I'm getting the call from someone in the house. Maybe let's just say it's a 16-year-old kid. Oh, my little brother is choking in the house. He needs some help. I get there and I kick down the door. And it turns out that these kids were just playing a prank. There was nobody choking, but I broke the people's door. Right? Should I be held responsible now for the door? Of course not, right? There has to be some sort of immunity where they say, well, look, your door is broken, but we're sorry. There's nothing we can do. The officer responded to the call. He acted in good faith. And you guys will just have to repair your door on your own. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's just the reality. Now, I don't want to assume where he was going, but obviously, it probably has to deal with all of the shootings and things like that.
Right.
But qualified immunity has to exist to some degree, or else we would not have any police officers, and we will be living in some sort of, dystopian future with no sort of law and order. And that's obviously what nobody wants. So.
No, this is true. Shout out JB. That's the big homie right there. Appreciate you jumping on the chat, brother. Shout out to you. Good brother right there. Good brother.
Yo, Jody's getting kind of, I don't know. Jody's getting kind of crazy with the comments. I don't know where she going with this stuff, but ain't that type of show, Jody.
Hey, it ain't that type of show, Jody.
Ain't no unbuttoning going on over here, Jody. All right.
But
hey, if you super chat something nice to Nate, maybe
Hey, maybe, yeah, I don't
a
mind.
button might fly.
Hey, that's what's up. Hey,
You know
that's
what I
what's up, Jody. Jody, it's on you. Jody, drop something in the drop something in the collection pot.
Gas is $4.79, so it got to be something nice too. Don't be cheap. All right.
Facts. No, when it comes to qualified immunity, you're right. I tell people that all the time. Like it's a necessary evil. I think what people don't understand is they don't understand how it works.
Right.
They don't understand it is there to protect the officers when they're doing right. I think the problem with it is that it's.
Oh man, I'm sorry, man. These people in the
brother.
comments, man.
Yeah,
trash can. He was
trash
like,
can waving.
Jody, the one that got my baby mama pregnant.
Yo, trash can waves is the man. I tell you, he's funny. He's funny.
No, he can't. He trying to have a serious conversation. But yeah, go ahead, Nate. So, go ahead. You were saying?
Let's see what JB says. I disagree with him. Qualified immunity is not needed. It makes officers and other government officials effectively above the law instead. Yes. So the reason why they're not going to get rid of qualified immunity, JB, you're absolutely right, is because it doesn't just protect the officers, right? It does protect a lot of government officials. And so if you slap one hand, you got to slap all the hands. And we know that there's a bigger structure that's greater than law enforcement that in fact that has impact. And so they're not going to give up their power. So if they find a way to take the power from police, they're going to take it from everybody else. No one wants to give up their power, JB. You're absolutely right. I'm a firm believer in insurance, giving officers insurance, like professional insurance, and as a way to circumvent around qualified immunity. Because if an officer's insured, you kind of hold them to a different standard. My boy Braves Club jumped back up. So I agree. I think the problem with qualified immunity, it protects good officers and it protects bad ones. And like anything, we know that's really what the issue is at the end of the day.
Right.
We have bad officers that are also protected under that umbrella. And so I think people want to know different ways we can become a little bit more creative to filter out those bad or prevent bad officers from taking advantage of qualified immunity, because it's there essentially for a good thing, right? It's almost like saying, hey, we need guns. It's a good thing to have a gun, but the gun in the hand of a bad person becomes a bad gun, right? And so qualified immunity, you guys, is a tool there to protect officers. And unfortunately, sometimes it can protect bad officers. It can be abused like any other tool. Just like our unions, the same thing, a union is there to protect officers. That's it. Whether you believe they're good or bad, that's their job. Just like a lawyer. A lawyer is there to protect your rights as a citizen, whether you're a bad citizen or a good citizen. Nonetheless, the lawyer's job is absolute. It's there to protect your rights. And so I think that's a good way to segue out of this, though. So final thoughts, see, any final thoughts that you have, you want to give the audience? I really appreciate, you taking the time to speak with us and just have just a very open dialogue, just being very real. I appreciate that, brother. I've always respected you. We've had a good time in the academy, and every time we get a chance to cross paths, we always have a good time. And so I just appreciate your support. Behind the scenes, a lot of people don't see the support you give, and then even now on the scene, you're giving support. So I appreciate that. Any final words you want to kind of give before we head out?
Well, first off, let me publicly say thank you for having me. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate the interaction with the people. I want to kind of congratulate you on what you started, what you're doing. It's obviously something that's needed. And you've been doing a great job with it. So I just want to continue to keep pushing and keep, making your dent and your mark on the world. I think that there's a lot that people can benefit from, and just having open dialogue, right? And obviously, we don't have all the answers. You don't have all the answers, but at least it's a platform where you can actually talk to someone that does the job and gain some sort of understanding. Because I think that's what we all need. We just need to have some sort of understanding, and we can understand each other. And I think that'll make for a better relationship between, police and the public. So salute to you, man. You've been doing great. I already see the 100K party coming, the 500K party, it's coming, man. So keep grinding, man.
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that so much. I'm trying to get more. I've been reaching out to some more people from the academy everybody I reached out to is excited to want to come up and have the conversation. And so stay tuned for that. I know you'll be down to come back if it fits
for
your
sure.
schedule. We'll have some more Academy folks. So see, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I owe you lunch, man. So
hey, man, no doubt, man. Appreciate that, man. And thanks to everybody in the chat. Appreciate all the jokes. Everybody have a good night.
All right. Appreciate it, bro.
All right, man.
All right.
Yeah.
Yo, that, man, listen, thank you guys so much for just being here and supporting this conversation. Very well needed conversation, and we're going to have more of these. I told you guys, I promised you guys this year we're going to be doing a lot of interesting things. We're going to have more officers from different ethnicities come up. They've already gave me the green light. They're excited about doing it. They have a voice. They want to be able to share, and I want you guys to have an opportunity to ask them questions and get a lot of things off of your chest. Right? There's so much that goes on in this profession that we don't get a chance to just have someone there to talk to. That is probably, I would say, the biggest problem in this profession is that law enforcement disconnected themselves from the people, the same people that we're supposed to be serving, right? It doesn't work. It doesn't work, you guys. And the people are arguing, they're frustrated, they're complaining about wanting to have some change, wanting to have real dialogue. None of this political foolishness that goes on that we see. You guys, I am trying, I won't say I'm trying. I am working on ushering something different, bringing something different to the table, something that people are afraid to do. We have a lot of cowards in our country that are afraid to talk about real issues. We have people who want to complain all the time, but they don't want to compete. We have people who have a lot to say, but never want to show up. But you guys, we have people who are doing the work in real time, who want to bring about change. And I say this all the time. If you see that, support it. If you see people doing the work, support it. I ask you all the time, share my channel, share these videos, ask people to come up and have the conversation. It's very important that we have it, you guys. I don't have all the answers, but I have some good answers nonetheless. And I'm willing to put myself out here to try to make it happen. Ask the questions. I don't shy away from them. I don't shy away from them. Let me see. Pound for pound knows I hate those avatars. Shout out to Pound for Pound. Shout out to JB. JB, if you got a moment, you can come up real quick, bro. We could talk about some things too. I want to do a show with JB. He's an awesome brother, very sharp. We have a lot of things that we're going to talk about and dive into as well in regards to the Black community. Shout out to Jody. Thank you so much, Jody, for your support. I appreciate you bringing in the comic relief, because this stuff is tough. It's tough. It's tough. Let me see. I know we had a few more star comments. I'm about to bring Dre back up. JB, if you want to come up, you come up, brother, before I close out. But JB brought up a good comment about qualified immunity. And, I think what we have to look at, we always have to look at, society is changing. This world, this country is changing. We have to be willing to evolve with it. And I believe that people are asking the police and policing, the way we do this thing, they're asking, can we see this thing different? Can we evolve? Can we evolve? And the question is, yes, we can evolve. The problem is sometimes you have people that are so stubborn. They're so stuck in their ways that you can't move them. They don't want to be moved. They don't want to be shifted. And that is the reality. Change brings discomfort, you guys. Think about our lives each and every day and how uncomfortable it is when something new, right? We think about COVID and what COVID brought to this world. We're doing things on the computer now. It's made you uncomfortable. And I think we got to get to a point to where officers are embracing the discomfort in order to grow something new, to establish something greater than we had before, a better relationship. Transparency is key. Communication is key. You can't go away from that. We have to have better transparency, you guys, and zero tolerance for the foolishness on both sides. But if we're talking about police accountability, listen, I'm simple. Do what the people are asking. My thing is, as long as it doesn't interfere with the officer's safety, then it shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter. And there should be officers there to be able to explain why something should not be done in the way that it's done, why we need to focus on this differently, bring in perspective, right? Bringing some accuracy to the conversation. But you have to be willing to do it. We can't be afraid to have these conversations, and we have to be honest about where we fall short at as officers, as police departments. The people are demanding it. We work for them. We work for them. I always say my loyalty is to the people, right? My allegiance is to officers, but my loyalty is to the people. That's who I swore to protect. JB said he's exhausted. No problem, brother. We'll schedule something. I appreciate you coming by. What time is it? 11:30? Shout out to JB. Someone on both sides. Let's keep it real. Absolutely. We can't reform the police without the help of the community, you guys. We need both sides to make this work. But we need people in law enforcement who's going to be honest and who are going to keep it real. That's the reality. Dre, I'm about to bring you up, brother. He said, who would insure a police officer? I don't know, but who insures these doctors? And they wiping people out about $300,000 a year. You know, police can get insurance. Again, we just have to reimagine this thing. You know, we got to reimagine it. Dre, what's good?
What's good? Now, I want to touch on this insurance thing. It will have to be federally mandated in order for officers to have like insurance, like malpractice insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm trying to tell you, some of us get paid more than some of these entire departments. And they ain't got no money.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, when you driving on the highway and you're going through a small town, you're getting a ticket because they need the revenue. And you have to look at that. It's, like as Nick says, all police officers are not created equal. Right. All the police departments aren't created equal. And I'll tell you, I could drive down to South Georgia with my badge, with my credentials, and it won't mean a damn thing just because I'm a black man and I'm uppity because I get paid a lot of money to do what I do. But the fact of the matter is, they feel, always gonna be someone who feels they need to be in my position, but couldn't do what I did. You know what I'm saying? Haven't been exposed to what I've been exposed to. So there's a lot of envy that goes on a lot of, departments. And it's funny because I've been to Goldsboro, North Carolina, talk to police officers out there, and they are like intrigued. They're beating you. What kind of calls you been on? What have you been on there? What?
Yeah.
And then you go to some parts, I'm like, so
they haven't experienced anything because there's nothing that goes on in their communities. And that, and I'm gonna have to talk to you about that behind the scenes as far as how we would address that. These smaller agencies, like Brunswick, Georgia area, they don't really have much going on. But then they get that one call though, right? And they don't handle it properly because they don't have any experience. I'm gonna have to talk to you off scene with that, but
we'll talk because it's not always South. Like, look, we'll talk off scene because I'm currently dealing with a couple of smaller agencies that we're familiar with.
Exactly. That's why I was like, yeah. That's why I said that because I know how that works with what you're doing now, and we don't want to disrespect.
I will lay this out for the chat though. For some of you who don't know, I am an instructor. So I teach the academies. I actually, after we were talking to everything about mental health, I teach a class called, it's a 1 hour, right now it's a 1 hour block of instruction, which is stress management for law enforcement. Okay. So it's not, entirely geared just for police officers, but it pretty much for what we deal with is geared for them to pretty much acknowledge what goes on with their body. Because when it comes to stress, you have to understand what stress does to the body. And it damages a lot. So just throw that out there.
That's what's up. I was gonna ask you something, Dre. Since being a training instructor, because we got another brother from our academy who's a trainer. I'm not gonna say his name, but he's down to come up, and I think it's great. Yeah, that's R. I'm talking about R. So I want to bring he got some good experience.
He does. I was just texting him back and forth while we were chatting.
I'll bet. Yeah. He said he's down. He said, "Yeah, bro, I'll come up." It's like, yes. He's a funny dude. So he's excited about it. Do you think training? I know C said 6 months. You think it should be longer than 6 months? A year? You think a degree should be attached to it for officers?
But you know what? You know what it is? I'm gonna tell you like this. C makes a great point, but
you still need practical,
you still have to be out on the street. And when I spoke to our academy instructor, like I told you before, he's actually proud of us because we are taking the initiative, understanding that training needs to be expanded, and we understand the importance of it, and we've made such great officers based on it.
Correct.
But you know what? You can have a 6 month training, and within that 6 months, because remember, there were times where we really didn't do nothing. If you maximize the amount of time we have, because like if we weren't in the classroom, we were running, or we was at the range. You know what I'm saying?
I hated it. I hated the academy. I hated it. It was. I almost quit, you guys. I almost quit like twice. One, I got tired of getting in trouble for what everybody else was doing. I didn't like that, and it was just stressful. Look. And I was ready to be done and over with and be out. And then when it was such a long time, man. We're thinking Georgia. We had the longest academy in Georgia. No one.
APD is right behind us.
Is it? Is APD?
Yeah, they have. APD has Atlanta Police it's their 6 months. I think we were, we was, man. Look, you remember during that monsoon, we had a crawl across the entire field in the mud with our tires.
Yes. Yeah, it was good training though. We didn't have like a fancy gym, you guys. They gave us tires, these giant truck tires that we exercised with, and our instructors were just evil with the workout. Brother Jay, he was all of our instructors were, matter of fact, all our instructors were prior Marines. That's the problem, man. Those guys are no joke, man. And it was like the way they work out was just, they're like animals. What does Chemo C say? Insurance companies can insure any industry or person as long as they have enough data, measure the risk, and determine how much premium to charge. I think it's worth looking into. I'm gonna have to I'm gonna do some more research on that on the back end. I'm gonna really put that together and really push that agenda. I think officers should be insured, man. I just don't. To me, look how much money these departments can save. I don't see the citizens not being behind it because these lawsuits are a lot and plenty, and the best way to keep these officers to getting cycled back into the industry or the profession is to have a way to rule them out. If you can't get insured because one, you can't meet the exercising requirements, you can't meet the protocols, you can't get the certification through the state, you can't, you're getting too many complaints, you've gotten 2 lawsuits, then who's going to want to insure you? I feel like that's the perfect way to kind of really keep these grasshopping officers from jumping place to place. And guess what? Overall, if we eliminate them, it helps us, these good officers who are not getting the light and the shine that they deserve because you keep putting these horrible batches of officers back in rotation.
What's funny? In the military, you have to maintain. You gotta, when you go to drill, if you're active duty or reserve, you still got to run. There's a requirement. You can't come in overweight. Right. And I'm not trying to disparage any officers that may have some weight issues, but be in shape. You can't do this job with your gun belt around your ankles.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, we've all had that officer that you already know he ain't running. He the one that's in the car talking about.
Or he's the one pulling the trigger.
Right.
Because he can't fight, so you have to lean on the weapons you have and you don't use your hands. We see that. I'm going to do more research on this. is why is law enforcement training so brief compared to? I got to find out. I know Finland. People were saying Finland, but I couldn't find anything on it to showcase how many years. I've heard it was 3 years that people were. But what we have to also remember, you guys, that the crime. You got to understand the crime in this country is off the chain. It's off the chain. And so you have some countries, they have their crime is very low, but their society's not out murdering folks every single day. The homicide rate in this country is off the chain. The incarceration rate is off the chain. The violence is off the chain. And we got to look at how that is also correlated with capitalism. These businesses benefit off of all of the violence that goes on in this country, and so we got to look at that too.
Well, one of the main issues,
off of the chaos.
Well, one of the main issues in this country is the recidivist problem.
Yeah,
a lot of our offenders are repeat offenders.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And it's funny. I sat down and watching a video about Russia's prisons. Yeah, and it's horrible over there. It's inhumane, but it is like, yo, and here it is. I'm like, yo, I can't, yo, I ain't built for our prisons. I know I ain't built for theirs. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, it's like I was watching a press conference in Florida about a human trafficking ring that where they arrested several folks.
Yeah.
And the sheriff kept saying, "Yeah, we don't have tasty meals and we got nutritious meals here, but you ain't gonna get no KFC. You ain't gonna get no Cracker Barrel here. You're gonna get a good meal. That's it, nutritious, and it's gonna taste like trash. I'm gonna tell you." And I'm just like, but yeah, you're saying all that, but your county is you're gonna be paying these dudes $2.15 an hour to mow a field or to help pave a land or pick up trash on the side of the road.
Right.
Like, what lessons are they learning? Because if you're gonna put somebody in prison, okay, and they have an ability to come out, there has to be some type of rehabilitation coming in. So when they get out, they don't have to turn back to the life of crime. You know what I'm saying? Give them a skill set, okay? But the problem is they want you to come back because they make money with you in, more money with you in than they do with you out.
Right.
And there's a lot of prisoners that that take the initiative to get educated, get their GED, get their college degree while they're in, so when they get out, they can go ahead and do it the legitimate way.
Agreed.
This is a capitalistic company. There's money to be made here, legally, legitimately. But the fact is, we're so addicted to the fast money, but we're not investing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got YouTubers out here that's making bank, but what are they doing with it? You know what I'm saying?
Listen, that's a whole nother.
Right.
I mean, it is. I think it's needed. The prison system is a joke. Daughter of y'all said, yeah, it is. Brazy Club. Let me see. Does the department put insurance on the officers? No. I mean, technically, but not like you think. The department is insured itself, and that insurance is there to protect the department if the officer is acting under the policies that the department has. If you act outside of it, then the department's going to throw the officer to the wind. So I think this is a good one too. I don't think it's fair. Insurance companies should pay. That's not what they're paying for. We're talking about civil lawsuits and not criminal. The criminal and the civil are two totally different things. And it's not just simply just killing someone. It's about, because if an officer takes a person's life, it's when it's unjustified is when you have a civil issue, right? A wrongful death, right? So for example, perfect example would be Kim Potter and with the Amir Locke. Some would say that's a wrongful death. Absolutely, because she mistook her gun for her taser. That's a lawsuit. So if she was insured and they obviously found her guilty of that, that she was liable for that, then they get to sue her insurance directly. If the insurance company says our max policy is $1 million and they're able to justify $1 million worth of damage, or 500,000, whatever, I don't know how to work, but just say whatever the cap is, they get that. And they say, listen, you'll no longer be insured again by any other person. So you're done. And so, I mean, we just have to be creative, you guys. you're not going to get rid of qualified immunity. I'm sorry. It's too powerful. Too many powerful people have it. So I'm asking guys, you better get creative. I'll champion a creative idea. I gave you an idea. Give me something better. But I'm telling you what's not going to happen. You're not going to get rid of qualified immunity. Officers will quit their jobs. And if you're not exchanging it for something better or something close to it, officers are not going to do the job, you guys. And so I'm asking, if you're going to turn down an idea, you better come with two that are better. And he's right about this. If you guys want to see about that prison complex stuff, he's absolutely right. 13th on Netflix is a very good documentary that talks about it. It's a business, you guys. It's a business. And since it's a business, don't become an employee. Don't apply for the job, because police are always hiring, and we'll help you get there quick, fast, in a hurry. So again, don't do it, you guys. Listen, Dre, I'm gonna go ahead and shut it down. You got any final thoughts for us, brother?
I do. Look, I appreciate every single last one of you guys, because you guys have a thirst for knowledge, and you want to learn, and you want to understand, and you yourself have a concerted passion to change the landscape in reference to police and citizen encounter. And how do you do that? You do it with knowledge and understanding. We shared a lot today. We really did. You know what I'm saying? And what we're trying to do is give you a peek through the window of what really goes on behind the scenes. We're trying to be as transparent as possible. And this brother right here is the greatest vessel in the world to be able to disseminate that information. And let's lift him up. Let's continue to promote him and tell our friends about him, and get him into a lot of conversation with other people that can actually get his message out. And for that, again, I'll be here tomorrow, because you hitting that talk about that's my thing, fathers. Yep. You know what I'm saying? My daughter just turned 21 on Monday, and every day she makes me proud. And then I got my youngest daughter, so I'll be on there. And thank you all. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, have a good night. Nate, continue it up. We'll chop it up, and right. You have a safe one.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Always. Big homie Dre dropping gems. Jenkins. Gets no better than that. Shout out to Jody. Yes, I do have PayPal, Jody. It's Real Nathan Daly as well. You can find it on there. It'll be in the description after the live stream is over. Thank you so much though for asking, you guys. I do have PayPal, CashApp, or you can super chat, whatever you guys feel comfortable with. All of the donations are greatly appreciated. I really, I'm so grateful for everyone who donated tonight. And there are people who donate after the stream's over as well. Thank you so much for just the consideration. Thank you so much for even seeing this content as being valuable, you guys. I'm going to be honest, I'm new to YouTube. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm trying. You know what I mean? I'm really trying. My heart's in the right place. I can definitely say that, you guys. I do the work in real life. You can look me up. I'm on LinkedIn, right? You can check my background. You can check my history. You can ask people about me. This is not for play. This is a real thing. You guys, I'm not here to finesse our community, right? I'm not here to make a bunch of jokes and say a lot of loud things. I'm not here to pastor you to death, right? That's not what this is about. I have real knowledge, real experience. I'm not perfect, but I do have some perfect solutions, to some of these problems. I say it before, you guys, I'm all about Black empowerment, and I'm all about the empowerment of law enforcement. We need each other. That's just the reality of it. It's not going to be a society where police are not needed. If it gets to that point, you guys, we're all on our own at that point, right? If it ever gets that bad. So tomorrow's live, you guys, I really want you to be present. We're going to be talking about Black fathers. This is going to be true to fathers in general, right? But we talk about the Black community over here, and the reality is absent fathers are fathers that are not present, fathers that aren't good, communities and households and families that are lacking that father, that balance. It has an impact. It has a huge impact on our young men. It has an impact on our young ladies, and we talk about it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to have two amazing fathers on the panel tomorrow. So I want you guys to just come in. I have a lot of information to share, a lot of data. We're going to be hitting some heavy conversations. And, we're not going to shy away from it, because not only do I talk about the problem, you guys, I talk about the solutions. I'm always going to talk about the solutions. I'm very solution oriented. I don't like to marinate on all the complicated issues, right? We got to dive through it, but we're not going to stay in it. Jody's funny. Not our OnlyFans. You guys, listen, this is the fans right here. This is YouTube fans. This is YouTube fans. This is where the real work is right here. It's gonna be a good conversation, you guys. Brazy Club, thank you so much, brother. Self-determination for our future generations. Facts, absolutely. Listen. Thank you, Brazy Club, and I'm so happy that I even earned your subscribe as well. It was an interesting stream over there on Brother Major's channel. He's an amazing brother as well. Listen, you guys, we don't always agree on everything, but one thing that we do agree on is the mission, right? Which is rebuilding our community, refortifying, producing better brothers and sisters who take this torch and go to the next mile with it. Our goal is empowering our people. That is, and goes without saying, is something that we all agree on. And overall, making this country just better for all of us. We all have to live and work together, you guys. It's imperative that we do this thing together. And so thank you for that. Thank you so much. Listen, I hope you guys enjoyed this amazing stream tonight. Shout out to my special guest, Brother C. That's the homie. Dre, always, those who came up and gave their thoughts as well. I really appreciate those brothers. It was a very, very great conversation. I hope you guys saw some value as well into this content. There's so much great things coming down the pipelines, you guys, so stay tuned. Please make sure you check the community tab. Listen, we hit 7,000, and we can go have a special 7,000 video coming out this week. It's going to just kind of highlight some things that we're going to do moving forward. Listen, I really appreciate you guys. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much on just the support. And listen, let these truths find you where these lies have left you, you guys. And with that, thank you so much. Good night, and God bless.